simultaneously. Now, ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. Before we get into this live stream, we do have to discuss some things momentarily. Let me switch over to the live cam for all the people watching over on Twitch. All right, we'll transition that. Looks like we're live. All right. I kind of don't like the position that my cup is in right now because it looks like it's going to fall right off of my table, but we'll deal with that if it happens. You can't cry over spilled soda, ladies and gentlemen. There's no reason to cry over spilled soda, just like there's absolutely no reason to cry over YouTube when they copyright strike your channel. We'll talk about that. So recently, we did try to have a movie marathon on the 4th of July. Okay, we did try. I wanted to do big movie marathon, right? We were going to stream in the day, later at night. It was going to be 2 streams. YouTube didn't like that so much. YouTube didn't like the movies that we were playing, all right? So apparently we can watch the Joe Bob episodes when they're edited and it's just Joe Bob talking. But God forbid we try to watch a fucking movie on here. And that's what I mean, guys. Sometimes you just have to... You have to take the punches, right? You have to stay in the ring and you have to kind of fight your way through it. And that's kind of what we're doing here, right? It's all a learning process. I don't know what the fuck YouTube is going to allow and what they're not going to fucking allow, what they're going to copyright strike and what the fuck they aren't. It's all a fucking learning curve, right? You got to fucking find out for yourself. But that's why we are here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because we are still able to do our Joe Bob Last Drive-In watch-alongs. Now, again, okay, when we tried to watch the actual way that it's done on a Joe Bob regular show, where he's going to talk and review the episode, and not only that, you get to see the entire fucking movie played out. Apparently, YouTube doesn't like that shit, so we can't do that. Let me fix our camera here, guys. Twitch is looking a little cut off from the 50-inch plasma your boys got on the fucking wall over there. But let's fix that, all right? And we are back. Okay, so I know what you guys are thinking. Dwayne, hold up. We just got finished with Season 1. Why the hell are we doing Season 3? There's a good reason for that. And that's because Season 3, technically, I got it all written down right here for you. Season 3 did technically happen still in 2018, as well as the entire July marathon that we were going to do for the 4th of July. Couldn't do that. YouTube struck the channel. Had to wait a week until we could upload again. Had to wait a week until we could actually fucking film a video again. So that is why we are skipping around a little bit, because in Season 3, apparently, all Joe Bob really did was a Phantasm marathon. Now, again, we're not going to be watching the movies. We're just going to be watching the episodes where Joe Bob is going to talk and review the movies, just for YouTube's concerns. And basically, I mean, I got a whole list here planned out for the rest of the whole year of shit that we're going to watch with Joe Bob. And if there ever is another time where Joe Bob is just going to let us watch the movie along with him, we are basically going to skip through that because, I mean, we got Halloween specials coming up. We got Christmas specials coming up. Season 2 is practically all centered around the theme of Thanksgiving. So we still got a lot of shit to cover here. But basically, in Season 3, which also did take place in 2018, it is a Phantasm marathon. Now, the gimmick is that he kind of filmed these episodes around Christmas. So you might hear some, holiday references in there, maybe some Christmas references. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, we're going to be watching 2 episodes from the Phantasm Marathon tonight. They only got Phantasm 1, and then Phantasm 3 we're going to watch tonight, where it's Joe Bob's reviews. We're not watching the movies just for YouTube's concerns. They couldn't get the rights to the second movie. Isn't that interesting? Couldn't even get the rights to the second movie, so there is no Phantasm 2 in this Phantasm Marathon. That's what happens when you always got to deal with bullshit copyright laws and restrictions. But yeah, guys, I mean, after this, I kind of figured, hey, here's the way I'm thinking, right? Go along with me now. Stay with me, if you can, chat. Right, here's what I'm thinking. Tonight, we watch episode 1 and then episode 2, which is basically Phantasm 1 and then Phantasm 3. We're going to watch that together here with Joe Bob. We're going to listen to what he has to say about the movies. And then later tonight, I am not sure if you are aware, I am not sure if you have heard the news recently, but Eminem is back. Eminem is coming back with a new album, so here's my plan. I'm not going to stream the album here on Twitch. It's only going to, the Eminem stream is only going to be available on YouTube. I want to make that perfectly clear because I need my laptop for listening purposes. But here's what I'm thinking, chat. I'm thinking we start off the night. It's going on about 9:30, so we're actually doing pretty good on time. I'm thinking we start off the night. We watch some Joe Bob episodes, probably 2, okay? Maybe no more than 2. And then later tonight, around midnight, Eminem is going to release his new album, the 12th album, right, from Eminem, The Death of Slim Shady. Now, what I want to do on YouTube is I want to do a little bit of a reaction video to that, a little bit of a review to the new album, okay, from my boy Eminem. I know you guys can't see here on YouTube, but you can definitely see on Twitch. I got the boy back there already. We're ready to go tonight, chat. We're ready to go. I've been fucking ready to go since the 4th of July. They're trying to fucking take me off the platform, but they'll fucking let Dr. Disrespect and his chomo ass get all the money he wants, right? It's all good, though. We're not mad at it. We're just gonna fucking, like I said, we stay in the ring, we go all 12 rounds, and we fucking wait until the referee holds our hand up at the end of the match. All right? That's what we're gonna do, YouTube. You can't stop us from staying true to ourselves. So, guys, like I said, we still got a whole shit ton of Joe Bob left in the year to get through. I mean, tonight we're going to basically go to Season 3 with the Phantasm Marathon. Again, we're not watching the actual movies. We're just watching Joe Bob's reviews to them. Okay? And then once we get into August, that will pretty much put us into Season 4, which takes place in 2019. And there's 17 episodes to that. Okay? So, just a little bit of context for you guys, just to, see where we're moving along here. I was going to save the Phantasm Marathon for around November, but I said, hey, maybe we should kind of cover some of that shit today. Because, again, Joe Bob kind of does already have Season 2 dedicated to the whole Thanksgiving theme and whatnot. I got some things coming up in the upcoming months personally with my life and what I'm trying to do for like a career and stuff. So I might not have that much time to sit around with you guys and watch these episodes. So it's better that we kind of try to get them out of the way. I would have absolutely loved, ladies and gentlemen, Ghosts and Goblins, Witches and Wizards, Vampires and Werewolves. I would have absolutely fucking loved to have done a 4th of July movie marathon with you guys. And now I know that YouTube is not okay with that. So if we ever were to watch the movies along with Joe Bob, like I said, we will basically skip through the movie and we will go right to the Joe Bob part because apparently that's the only acceptable part on YouTube when it comes to copyright. But we still got a whole fucking year's worth of material here, guys. Right now the channel is pretty much just dedicated to these kind of watch-alongs, I should say. And like I said, my idea for later tonight is I'm going to listen to the new Eminem album for the first time, The Death of Slim Shady. Okay, we're going to listen to it for the first time ever. And we're going to get my reaction and my review as it's happening. Now, I'm not going to play music all like that because, again, copyright. But I will be putting up the reaction and the review of what I think of the new album. Okay, so that's going to happen later tonight around midnight. It's 9:30 right now. So you know what that means, chat. We're going to get right into these episodes with the man of the hour, Joe Bob Briggs. And again, tonight, he's going to be reviewing the movies Phantasm 1 and also Phantasm 3. Couldn't do Phantasm 2. Couldn't get the Phantasm 2 copyrights. That happens sometimes, chat. Like I said, you can't always have your cake and eat it too. You got to play along. So we'll turn this up for you guys. Hopefully this is just a little bit of a skit. Looks like a skit to me. And we'll check out these movie reviews with Joe Bob.
Everybody's what they call a hyphenate. A hyphenate has a hyphen in his job description, like writer, director, actor, producer. Air conditioning and heating repairman. You know, reminds me when I was living in Nashville out on West End Avenue, and I was a singer-songwriter. Actually makes me melancholy to think I once opened for Boxcar Willie at the Greers Ferry Lake Smallmouth Bass and Crappie Tournament in Heber Springs, Arkansas. I had to give all that up. You said you were a virgin, but your baby ain't named Jesus. I hope you suffer all the consequence. You said you were mine alone, but you had 12 diseases. You entrusted me with all the evidence.
Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, the furthest that Joe Bob ever went with his music career as an opening act happens to the best of us sometimes, ladies and gentlemen. But like I said, take a sip of the soda there, chap. We're sipping on some of my favorite Dr. Pepper tonight, right out of the Friday the 13th mug, even though it's not Friday. So we are all ready. It fits the theme, though, right? It's a horror movie. We got Joe Bob over here reviewing some horror movies, so it fits the theme, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of music, if anybody is ever interested in listening to your boy's music, right? Your man is working on his second studio project. I would like to call it an album. It is called Moth to a Flame. That is available on Instagram because YouTube, again, with copyright, won't allow me to upload any of my music. They'll take that shit down the second they get their hands on it. But right now, I have put out exactly 12 songs for Moth to a Flame, and I'm still working on it. These albums that I've been doing, they've been like 2-year kind of projects where I like to kind of draw it out for not only 1 year but also 2. And I basically just go into the studio and I record however I'm feeling that day. That's how I've kind of changed my writing process a little bit. I used to think, maybe I have to write the most fucking technical, complex song of my entire life. And that wasn't working for me when I was younger. So I basically just go into the studio now. However I'm fucking feeling that day, that's the song you're going to get. We got some snacks too, Chad. I got some munchies back here. I got some nachos. We don't want to play too much of the music just in case YouTube gets a little offended at that too. Joe Bob does have his little intro here going on for the 3rd season. So I do got some nachos back here. I'm going to munch down on some of my nachos. I got salsa and nacho cheese to go with it, chat. So don't mind me if you hear me kind of munching on some nachos. We're going to get through this intro, and then, like I said, just trying to avoid any of the copyright when it comes to the music. And the same thing is basically going to happen later tonight with the Death of Slim Shady album reaction.
Okay, the first rule of any Joe Bob Briggs Christmas special, some of y'all already know this, is this holiday season, I don't want y'all killing one another or killing yourself like
so
you
here you go, Chad.
do.
You can see. You can see we
everything
got
for
nacho
grandma.
cheese in there.
Like,
We got
one theory
salsa
I
in
don't
there.
know why people start getting depressed and thinking about death around the holidays is
I like the
cranberry
spicy
sauce.
salsa.
We all hate cranberry sauce. The only people who like cranberry sauce are named Estelle. 11 months of the year, we don't even have to think about cranberry sauce. And then what happens? 2 holidays, back to back, jiggling purple igloos sloshed on your plate. People see that, they just go crazy, start killing the in-laws. Another reason, people walking around the house wearing house shoes that look like moose heads. I mean, that wouldn't be pleasant even if your relatives looked like the Radio City Rockettes. But since your relatives probably don't have legs like the Radio City Rockettes, since they probably look more like people who work the night shift at Dunkin' Donuts, and this is like watching a coffee table leg model underwear. By the way, our movie tonight, all 4 of our movies tonight, because once again, we're going all night. We're going all night with this baby. This is
Joe Bob's pulling the all-nighter with the Phantasm marathon.
And 3 of its sequels. And you know what I'm talking about.
So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, there is going to be some holiday references, some Christmas references thrown into these episodes. Um, I felt like we could watch them now because how many of us consider Phantasm a Christmas movie? I don't think any of us do, right? There's never been a moment where I've heard somebody say, "What's your favorite Christmas horror movie?" And then they immediately reach to Phantasm. Phantasm really, to me, is not associated with Christmas, but it's still nice to get some Joe Bob action in there. Get some Joe Bob movie reviews. Again, he stretches these episodes out. So he's got 4 movies to do in the Phantasm Marathon. We're going to watch 2 tonight with him.
You can glance at your own Christmas tree and get the answer to that riddle. That's right, we're going to do the ultimate analysis of the Phantasm series. And Santa Claus says he's got dwarves. Well, we've got your brown-robed monk, shrunken carcass, outer space, other dimension, alien dwarves, don't we? Not to mention a special guest. The Ice Cream Man is here tonight in the Last Drive-In trailer park with his guitar. You know who I'm talking about. And I guarantee you that if you watch the entire marathon and you pay attention and you use artificial stimulants, because let's face it, whoever watched any Phantasm movie without clicking a few vape pens, you know, as I say, if you pay close attention, you will understand by dawn the entire meaning of the entire Phantasm series.
Now, I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, just to add to this. I have been sober now for 8 months. I gave up smoking weed. Okay? Trying to get myself in a little bit better position here in life. And also for the thing that I'm trying to do with a career. Essentially, you could say that the thing that I have to do in a few months, I have to pass a drug test to even be able to be accepted into the training program that I'm kind of going for. So around my birthday last year, around October, I actually gave up smoking. And I've been 8 months sober now. Does that mean your boy is going to stop forever? No. You know, there's countless times I still think about it. It was a tough habit to beat. I mean, I was smoking for probably like 12, 13 years nonstop. Basically, like ever since my dad passed away in 2012. And like I said, it was like an everyday thing for me. So to kind of kick that habit was not easy. But after about 2 weeks, I basically just told myself I could fucking do anything if I can beat 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So now, does that mean I'm gonna stop forever? You know, I might dabble into it again sometime in the future when I'm in a better position or whatnot. And your boy does like to drink a little bit of Kraken. You know, I've been known to have my glass of Kraken rum. I got a little bit of pirate in my blood, chat. You know, so I sip on some Kraken, you know, for rare occasions. It's been a while since there's been a very rare occasion for me. You know, it'll have to be something like I'm celebrating something that I did, which usually isn't too much shit. But you know, like I said, been sober for about 8 months now. Does that mean I'm going to stop forever? Certainly not, especially since it is kind of considered legal now in New York State. But also, you know, your boy has been known to sip on a little bit of Kraken rum. I got the Pirates of the Caribbean in my blood, Chad, all right? I like my Kraken.
And this has never been attempted before. The Russians and the Chinese have both been studying the subtext of Phantasm for 30 years. They've never been able to hack the code. We're going to do it tonight. But first, we need to stay alive, right? That's why I've come up with a few common sense rules for getting through the holiday season without 1, dying, 2, serving 25 to life, or C, mutilating a pet. So listen up. I don't want to have to tell you this stuff again. Numero uno, conversation. When you're visiting your relatives this week, never start out any conversation with something like, I told her she never should have married that Jimmy Bohannon. Do you see why? Try this as an alternative. I hear Loretta and them moved to Waco. Don't add anything to it. Stop right there. Don't say, Loretta and them moved to Waco. She's so nice. Because that starts an argument about how nice she is. She might not be nice. All right, numero 2, food. Never ask who made what unless you already know the answer. Never say, who made the marshmallow jelly bean fruit salad? Unless you are sure that the marshmallow jelly bean fruit salad is A, all gone, and B, nobody scraped it off into the garbage disposal, all right? Okay, numero 3, football. Never ask any embarrassing questions about the team, like who's playing or what's the score unless you're sure all the old men in the room are awake.
We got Bill season coming up, Chad.
It's always the most important game of the year. If it wasn't, then you'd all be in there clearing off the table. Numero 40.
Rumor has it out there. Now, this may just be me because of my personal preference, but the rumor has it out there that they want a Buffalo Bills and a Detroit Lions Super Bowl. Okay? I would love to see it. Personally, you guys all know that my absolute rivals are the Dallas Cowboys. Any fucking team from Dallas, for that matter. Absolutely hate them. But, a little bit of an interesting fact. When I was growing up, the first ever Bills football game that I ever attended, strangely enough, ironically enough, also considering tonight, since we're going to be listening to Eminem's album later, the first ever Buffalo Bills game that I ever attended, I believe it was around like 2004, 2005. I mean, I was basically like a 9-year-old kid, just like fucking Dominic Mysterio at the time. Again, ladies and gentlemen, me and Dominic Mysterio are pretty much the same age. We were born in the same year. But besides that, the first football game I ever seen the Buffalo Bills play, we were playing the Detroit Lions. So that is the first ever Buffalo Bills game I ever went to as a kid. Like I said, I believe it was around 2004, 2005. It was so long ago, it's hard for me to pinpoint the exact year. But it was definitely 04 or 05. And we did lose. We did lose to the Detroit Lions, believe it or not. As terrible as the Detroit Lions were, especially in that era, I guess we were fucking even worse back then. But now, they're talking about a Super Bowl, chat. Now, both teams are in that competitive aspect to play each other in a fucking Super Bowl. Could it happen? I hope so. Will it happen? Probably not until the Bills get the new stadium set up.
Presents, very important. When you open it up, never state what it is while you're opening it up. Just say, "That's so nice. Thank you," and then figure out what it is later. Also, as soon as you get out of sight of the house, destroy all bottles of men's cologne so you won't be tempted to throw it in the drawer at home with all the 48 other bottles you got at all the other holidays, because someday you just might go over the limit for Nautica Blue.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, me, myself, I do dabble in a little bit of cologne. I do love my colognes. A little bit of a cologne collector for all the lovely ladies out there watching. Your man's always going to smell appropriate, don't you worry. All right, I'm always going to carry a scent that lasts for a lifetime.
And send a dear beloved family member a bomb in the mail. You know, what's in Nautica Blue anyway? Why is it blue? You put it on your skin. We're not Avatar people running through a CGI jungle.
Nautica is definitely terrible. I'm not a big fan of the Nautica brand. Me, myself, I like a little bit of Dior. Like a little bit of the Coach action from time to time. Also, one of my favorites that I will recommend, Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue is a very nice scent. I don't really like too many scents that smell like fruit and like, you know, I don't like a lot of sweet scents. I like more of like a spicy kind of like wooden kind of aromatic.
Okay, I digress. But all right, numero 50. Most important of all, divorces.
Oh, and another one that I absolutely have to recommend. One of my favorites, Paco Rabanne, 1 Million. He's also got some other ones, Phantom. You know, there's just so many great Paco Rabanne ones. I can't recommend them all, but I definitely am a Paco Rabanne fan when it comes to my colognes as well.
Anybody who was present last year, but not this year, does not exist. Always remember this. Your life could depend on it. All right, as I said before, we're going to watch the entire Phantasm series tonight in order in an effort to understand the metaphysical meaning of the film. And in order to do that, you're going to need narcotic assistance. You know that. I know that. A baby in his cradle knows that. But we do not want to advocate anything illegal. And so at the first break, we're going to offer up some menu items that will help you reach Phantasm Nirvana, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. And when we get to that point, you're going to need to know two things. One, do you live in a Colorado state or a Texas state? Now, I don't mean just those two states, but your state is going to have laws that pertain to one or the other. You understand me? So, for example, Oregon, that's a Colorado state. Tennessee, home of the Jack Daniels Distillery in Lynchburg. That's a Texas state. Now, the second thing some of you are going to need to know is how fast can you get a doctor on the phone that will write you a prescription for chronic undiagnosed generalized pain? Because you need that in Billings, Montana. You probably need that in Boston, Massachusetts. You need to go to the internet, do that right now, because that's for later. You're going to need that. You do not need any stimulation for this first segment.
Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, your boy has been 8 months sober, haven't smoked any weed for the past 8 months. Kind of proud of myself. Like I said, it was a tough habit to kick. If any lovely ladies out there are watching that want to buy your man's a drink, I'm only sipping on crack and rum. Now, I will say this. I absolutely fucking can't stand beer. Every single beer that I've ever had has tasted absolutely terrible. I do not like beer. When I sip on a drink, you better be giving me some fucking hard alcohol. All right? Actual fucking hard liquor. Crack and rum is my specialty. Lovely ladies, if you want to buy me a drink, the Kraken is the way to go.
Phantasm, of course, is the familiar story of the demonic 7-foot-tall mortician who can morph into the body of a naked party girl and lure unsuspecting barflies to their deaths so that he can harvest their bodies and shrink them in half and launch them into another dimension in a sort of pneumatic tube teleporting device that goes through a time-space portal that's protected by an army of dwarf monks that are armed with flying metal spheres that burrow into the brain of any unwanted intruder and drill through the skull until blood shoots straight out like a fire hose. Sure, we've seen that before. But have we seen it with ridiculously precise Joe Bob Briggs commentary? I think not. The funeral is about to begin, sir. Let's look at those drive-in totals and light up this Yule.
We're at the drive-in totals, ladies and gentlemen.
We have
for Phantasm 1.
4 breasts.
There's 4 breasts. You know 4 breasts gotta help the rating.
Drilling, mineshaft plunging, disappearing fortune teller box, hooded dwarf gang attack, 2 motor vehicle chases with crash and burn, 1 ghost hearse, 1 drooling dwarf on ice, Aardvarkus interruptus with panty chewing, 1 1971 344 speed Barracuda disguised as a 440S Hemi-Cuda, but you can't fool a horror audience that knows it's muscle cars. Stiletto to the gizzards.
Hold on. We gotta replay that one. We definitely gotta replay that one.
Dwarf gang attack, 2 motor vehicle chases with crash and burn, 1 ghost hearse, 1 drooling dwarf on ice, Aardvarkus interruptus with panty chewing, 1 1971 344 speed Barracuda disguised as a 440S Hemi-Cuda. It's 1 1971 344 speed Barracuda disguised as a 440S Hemi-Cuda. All right, if you guys are staying along with Joe. But you can't fool a horror audience that knows it's muscle cars. Stiletto to the gizzards. Lethal flying silver spheres with retractable drill blades. 1 toothy slime creature. Dagger to the stomach. Attack dwarf. Fingers roll. Garbage disposal food. Dwarf food. There's garbage disposal food in this movie, ladies and gentlemen. Quicksand food. World premiere of the song Sitting Here at Midnight. Written by Bill Thornberry, who also plays Big Brother Jody. Drive-In Academy Award nominations for Angus Scrim as the tall man, the yellow-blooded mortician with a nasty secret, Michael Baldwin as the snoopy 13-year-old expert at casket concealment and finger hacking, Reggie Bannister as the ice cream vendor, and Don Coscarelli, the writer, director, producer, cinematographer, editor, for creating the longest-running horror franchise in history. 37 years of one continuous story. 4 stars. 4 stars. Joe Bob says, check it out. It's a 4-star review from the man himself, Joe Bob. On this first one is only about a 47 on a 100 scale. That means that, like, if you're watching this movie for the first time and your IQ is exactly 100, then you will understand 47% of the plot. Now, it gets harder as the night goes on. So limit yourself to eggnog right here at the beginning. Don't drink anything else until I give you specific instructions. If you want to learn something. Now, if you don't, you, girlfriend who sends in the emails about how much your boyfriend loves horror, but I just don't get it, you can drink till you pass out. We don't care. We'll check your pulse at dawn. First segment break coming up, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to be right back. I just want to go get a towel real quick. Nacho's getting kind of messy, chat. Nacho's getting kind of messy. Okay, so far that's just 2 flashbacks, 1 dream vision, played by a dancer named Kathy Lester, who to this day does these elaborate burlesque shows in LA. Her show is called Les Cats Boudoir Rouge Extravaganza, featuring fan dancers, harem girls, and lots of women in fancy corsets. And the way Kathy describes the show is that she teases and lures the men into her bedroom. I wonder how many of those have seen Phantasm, because they have all their erotic mind imagery mixed up with the frowning tall man. All right, Don Coscarelli, the creator of Phantasm, says he got the idea for the movie from a nightmare he had where he was running through marble corridors being chased by a flying silver sphere that had a needle in it, and the sphere was trying to ram the needle into his head. Coscarelli was 23 years old at the time that he had this dream, but he had already made 2 movies. He made a movie when he was just 17 years old. It was called Jim, the World's Greatest. And it was about a teenage boy who has to protect his little brother from an abusive alcoholic father, actually played by Angus Scrim, who plays the tall man in this movie. Coscarelli got the money for his first movie from his wealthy parents, because he grew up in the very fancy Bixby Hill neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And it was supposed to be a $20,000 movie. But Coscarelli started the movie, and then he fired the entire professional crew and replaced them with friends of his, and it ended up going $80,000 over budget.
Jesus, $80,000 over budget, ladies and gentlemen. And like Joe Bob even said right there, for this time, I mean, this is a very young director, you know, only being in your 20s, trying to make these kind of movies on that kind of a budget. I mean, that's an achievement in itself. I kind of almost want to go the same direction in a little bit down the future. Because like I said, when it comes to me, I do music. I also want to make movies at some point in my life, ladies and gentlemen. So if you guys ever want to donate and contribute some tips, that is exactly what they will go to. Considering now I'm a little bit older, I'm not in my early 20s anymore. I'm in my late 20s, basically. I'm going to be 27 this year. So if you can believe it, I'm definitely reaching that end of the line for me, I feel like. And for the past like 15 years, basically, when it comes to like my music, it hasn't really gone anywhere for me. I haven't, you know, ever had any kind of big opportunities with labels and stuff like that. So, you know, it's like I have a certain plan of what I'm gonna do right now. I always have a plan. Don't get me wrong. But you know, once I get to a certain point, I definitely want to take the time myself to see how it will be when I make a movie myself. But that's kind of where I want my future to go. Like I said, for like the past 15 years independently, I've been making music, and it just seems like I never get any kind of attention. Like I never kind of get any kind of like real support when it comes to like actual people who are gonna like put money into me and let me go on tour and whatnot. Seems like all my friends and people that I know around here enjoy it, but you know, like I said, you kind of always need to take that next step to really see if you can get to that level. And I personally always get depressed and shit when I have to think about all the other people that I've seen get opportunities over me. I won't name any names, but there's plenty of people that I feel like should not be getting paid to make music, and they have a career to get paid to make music. So, you know, I guess all you can do is just pray to God and hope things work out. But like I said, guys, I've been fucking doing this for a while now, and it is, you know, it is definitely hard. It takes a toll on you financially when you don't get any kind of support in terms of like money from other people.
But here's the surprising part. His parents kept paying more money to get it finished. And then Miracle of Miracles, Universal Pictures picked it up, mainly because they liked the novelty of releasing a movie directed by a kid in high school, but they required $50,000 more of reshoots and new scenes, and so it ended up being a $150,000 movie that was supposed to be a $20,000 movie. But the star was Gregory Harrison, who would go on to fame as Trapper John M.D., and more important for our purpose, Reggie Bannister was in it. That's the movie he was discovered in. He was doing a play at Long Beach City College when Coscarelli found him. So that first film got Coscarelli noticed, even though it didn't really get much of a release. They originally called it Story of a Teenager, maybe one of the worst titles in film history. But the fact that he was able to make a theatrical motion picture at such a young age led to his next movie, when he was all of 19 years old, called Kenny and Company. Now, Kenny and Company is a light comedy that follows these three 12-year-olds in the days leading up to Halloween. And it stars Michael Baldwin, who also stars in Phantasm as Mike, the younger mischievous brother.
I do feel like one thing I should add, ladies and gentlemen, since Joe Bob is talking about this young director who made the movie Phantasm, basically around his 20s. One thing I do want to add, two of my favorite directors of all time, two of my absolute inspirations when it comes to these kind of movies and just directing movies in general. You know, Martin Scorsese, when he started making movies, when he started directing them, he basically only had his friends to work with as well. So one of his closest friends, Robert De Niro, basically helped Martin Scorsese make a lot of his early movies, and still to this day they have a relationship. But also down the line, if you look at another one of my favorite directors, Tarantino, he absolutely had no money at the start. He basically had to fund his first movie from working at a video store. And I remember him saying, you know, he would just rent the camera and just try to get some actors. And he basically shot everything in a way that it wasn't so expensive. So what that means is like staying on one location and just trying not to like do too much in the script, so that way they could stay on that budget. It happens to the best of them, ladies and gentlemen.
Michael Baldwin's father was an animator for Hanna-Barbera, and so that's how he ended up being close to the movie business. Kenny and Company cost even more of his parents' money, $195,000, even though it was shot on weekends, mostly at Coscarelli's home in Long Beach. And when it finally came out, it was marketed as a skateboarding film by 20th Century Fox, even though there's hardly any skateboarding in it. It barely got reviewed. It was beaten up badly by Bad News Bears, which came out at exactly the same time. And the only important thing to know about it is that at the 72-minute mark of Kenny and Company, there's a scene where the boys go into a haunted house and a monster appears. And when the film was shown to test audiences, that scene got this huge jump scare reaction. So Coscarelli liked that. So he decided, I'm going to make a movie that has a scene like that every 5 minutes. He then went up to Big Bear Lake up in the mountains. He holed up in a cabin, and he came back down a few weeks later with the script called Morningside that eventually became Phantasm. So his first three movies all have an adolescent boy as the main character, and most of the parts are played by non-actors, actually mostly musicians. Like in this movie, Jody, Reggie, the lady in lavender, they were all from some other part of the business. But that's Don Coscarelli, you know. I just need people with a certain personality. So once again, Coscarelli raised $300,000 from his father, who was an investment executive, and so he was able to get some other investors. But even your dad does not have unlimited appetite for losing money. So Coscarelli knew this was probably his last chance. Took 2 years to shoot Phantasm on weekends and do the. When it finally came out in 1979, it was a hit, even though nobody understood it then and nobody understands it now. In fact, it was classified by the American Film Institute as a comedy. So, yeah, Don Coscarelli is the master of mixed messages. Something is going on at the mortuary, which, by the way, doesn't look much like a mortuary on the outside. It looks like a cool Victorian house, which is what it was. And now everything is going to get a lot more sinister for the mischievous Mike. Okay, back to the film. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. We're now at the 25-30 mark of the movie, and it's about to get weird. So here's what you want to do. If you live in a Colorado state, you're going to want to take about 4 to 5 hits of a strain called green crack in the next 4 minutes. This will give you an immediate battery charge and the focus you'll need for the middle part of the film. And by the way, most people use the one descended from skunk number 1, but you're going to need the Afghani version if your bud tender has that. Looking ahead, you're going to need some old school belladonna from Paradise Seeds. And then when we get to the freaky part at the end, that strain called Headband that combines sour diesel and OG Kush. But I'll remind you of that, and we'll flash the intake moments on social media. Do you hear that, Darcy? I want that on social media.
I'm on it.
All right. Because we take care of you here in the spirit of the Christmas season on Joe Bob's Last Drive-In. Darcy, you are just way too into this part of the show. Now, if you live in a Texas state, you're going to follow a similar schedule, but the first thing you need is a small can of Pit Bull ice malt liquor. Do that now. When we get to the second silver ball, that's the second one, the one with Jody, not the first one with Mike. You're going to do 2 shots of tequila cabeza. If you're not familiar with that brand, it will slap you in the face, but you'll thank me. And then at the end, when it gets really freaky, we're going to go to Wild Turkey Rare Breed Barrel Proof. No more than 3 swigs, and that'll get you to where you need to be. All right. Everybody's a little different, so just take these as guidelines. We're trying to get you to the point of maximum phantasm enlightenment, and these formulas have been worked out over 39 years of trial and error. Mostly error. And by the way, green crack, that's the name of it, but it's not really crack. I mean, you do know that, right?
Green crack is not really crack, ladies and gentlemen. Better be smoking on some headband.
The only safe crack is the one that sticks up out of your underwear.
Combination of the sour diesel and the OG Kush. But around 25 minutes in the movie Phantasm, things start getting a little weird. Now we're at 39 minutes, almost 40.
One of the eternal questions asked about Phantasm is just what are those flying metal balls that drill your brain? Where do they come from? How do they work? What brings them out? When do they appear, disappear? In my opinion, they're the disembodied murderous eyes of the tall man, just like the lady in lavender is the disembodied body of the tall man. They're just tools that can be manipulated by the tall man with his mind. So the spheres don't come out unless the tall man sees you. At any rate, the motivation for virtually every scene in the movie is little Mike's curiosity, spying on the funeral, sneaking into the mortuary. That was Sunnyside Mortuary in Long Beach, by the way. Hanging around outside the pub where the lady in lavender picks up guys. That was a place on the Pacific Coast Highway. Anyway, the kid runs directly toward danger. Michael Baldwin, he was in a lot of shows as a child actor, but in later life, he became a producer and a director, mostly commercials and music videos. And of course, he achieved drive-in immortality as the screenwriter behind Vice Girls. Remember that one in the late 90s? 3 bodacious babes are cops who go undercover as porn actresses to catch a serial killer, starring Lana Clarkson in her last major role before she went home with Phil Spector one night and he killed her. Lana Clarkson, the star of the classic Barbarian Queen, cut down before she could realize her full potential as a drive-in icon, which is beside the point being that 20 years after making this movie, Mikey here wrote Vice Girls. Okay, back to the movie. You know, millions of people have seen Phantasm, but it's actually not Don Coscarelli's most popular movie. That would be The Beastmaster, starring Mark Singer as the barbarian who talks to the animals. It was like the kinder, gentler version of Conan the Barbarian. Mark Singer was like a metrosexual version of Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, with Tanya Roberts. Rip Torn was in it. They used to play that thing on the Turner Networks 9 times a day for like 17 years. And I don't know why, but the Beastmaster just became deeply ingrained in everybody's subconscious because you couldn't escape it. It was just always on. Remember those ferrets? You know, those twin ferrets that lived in Mark Singer's pocket making little ferret noises, you know. So cute, you ended up wanting to wallop those ferrets with a ball-peen hammer. And there's only so much PETA-friendly TV you can take before you just go berserk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. We are at the 51-minute mark here for the Joe Bob movie review of Phantasm 1.
So Tommy, who was previously buried, thereby breaking up the groovy folk rock trio of Reggie, Jody, and Tommy, is now a yellow goo-drooling dwarf driving a hearse. And ever since Jody saw the amputated but animated finger of the tall man in a box, he's intent on going back to the mortuary himself to check it out instead of doing what he said he would do, which is call the sheriff, which, by the way, I think that one remark is the only time in any of the 5 Phantasm movies where somebody says, let's call the police. And I think maybe he was just saying it so that Mike wouldn't follow him. You know, one thing we need more of in this country is male authority figures who thrust rifles and shotguns into the hands of 13-year-olds with the admonition, no warning shots, shoot to kill. Anyway, I'm a little distracted because we got a bunch of tweets and emails and Instagram posts and Facebook stuff saying, Joe Bob, what the hell are you doing? It's Christmas. Show a Christmas horror movie. Not really listening to my explanation at the beginning that this is a Christmas movie.
Because it's not.
Darcy the Mail Girl, ladies and gentlemen, how bad is it? What's coming in on the...
Oh, man. Where are you going to start?
It's just
they wanted actual horror Christmas movies, Chad.
So bad. They suck.
Gremlins sucks?
Gremlins is okay.
Black Christmas sucks?
Black Christmas is kind of the only good one, you know?
Again, ladies and gentlemen, the joke is that Joe Bob sometimes is going to put himself through the worst horror movies opposed to the best ones. So, of course, around Christmas time, he's not going to be watching any of the horror classics for the Christmas season. Into the shit and finding the ones that we actually want to watch.
So you try to do something different, and everybody dogpiles on you. I'm sure there are 19 cable networks doing Christmas horror. We're doing psychedelic escapist horror like God intended for the season of peace.
I don't even know what you mean by that.
What movies are they recommending?
Let's see, we got Christmas Evil, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Krampus, Better Watch Out.
Okay, that's enough. See, the problem is that Phantasm is a love-hate thing, you know.
So, of course, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, later on in the year, we will see Joe Bob do some Christmas specials on The Last Drive-In.
Time for people in Colorado states to switch to the belladonna. People in Texas states should do the tequila cabeza shots. But back to my point. What I call this is a holistic, counterintuitive look at Christmas through the eyes of an insane person. That's what we're doing.
All right.
No, I was there. I know what you're. I was there when the whole Silent Night, Deadly Night thing happened. I know the whole background. TriStar Pictures pulled it out of theaters because the protests were so bad. The National PTA came out against the movie because they didn't like the story of Little Billy dressing up in a Santa Claus suit and going over to the St. Mary's home to kill all the orphans with a meat axe. They disagreed with that storyline.
Now, Silent Night, Deadly Night kind of started out as a good movie, in my opinion. But the further they got into the series, it just went in a whole nother direction. I don't think every single Silent Night, Deadly Night movie was even directed by the same person. So you can kind of see how the visions got kind of fucked around. But, you know, I think the first two movies were okay, but then after that, it kind of gets fucked. If you've ever seen the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies, they definitely lost track of the vision and lost track of the story for that one.
But actually, the mistake TriStar made, this was back in 1984, they ran the trailer for that movie during Little House on the Prairie. Hello! Protesters gathered outside theaters, Siskel and Ebert weighed in, TriStar folded like a cheap lawn chair 2 weeks after its release. But obviously, it went on to become a cult classic, and it spawned 4 more sequels, and it was remade in 2012. Nobody protested in 2012, although maybe they should have, because it wasn't that great a movie. But yeah, we could have showed that tonight as part of drive-in history. We could have showed Bikini Bloodbath Christmas, too, which admittedly was that was the best in the Bikini Bloodbath trilogy. Yeah, I would admit that. Or Feeders 2 Sleigh Bells, you know, S-L-A-Y, Sleigh Bells. Or Mother Krampus, I like that one better than Krampus. Or Psycho Santa, we could have showed that. Santa Claus, C-L-A-W-S, you know. John Russo made that in Pittsburgh. Debbie Rochon is in that. Cannibal Claus, C-L-A-U-S-E. Two Front Teeth, remember that one? Two Front Teeth, good title. Once you start free associating, there are quite a few Christmas horror movies. Elves, Grizzly Adams as Santa Claus, I mean, that's pretty great. All Through the House, Cadaver Christmas, To All a Good Night, Red Christmas, Jack Frost, the other Jack Frost, not the Michael Keaton one, the other one.
There's 2 Jack Frost movies, ladies and gentlemen, okay? There's the Jack Frost movie with Michael Keaton, which more of you have probably seen than others. And then there's the serial killer Jack Frost, which is about a possessed snowman who's absolutely fucking off his rocker and just going around slaying the entire neighborhood.
Day of the Beast, that flick about the Antichrist being born on Christmas Eve. Blood Beat takes place on Christmas. So you would have that whole samurai warrior thing go along with Santa Claus,
That also kind of got it was a little bit confusing being a kid and seeing two kind of Jack Frost movies that were made around the same time and just had the same title, but two completely different fucking ideas for a movie, right? I mean, if you guys have seen the Jack Frost with Michael Keaton and then the Jack Frost that is about the slasher snowman, you will definitely know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I would just be scrolling through the TV guide. I'd see Jack Frost. I think it was the fucking serial killer snowman. And then all of a sudden you got Michael Keaton basically trying to be the Christmas spirit.
Game Over, that's another one where the killer wears a Santa suit. There's a bunch of them with a Santa suit killer. Silent Night, not to be confused with Silent Night, Bloody Night, or Silent Night, Deadly Night, and that's not to be confused with Silent Night, Zombie Night. Santa Sleigh, once again, S-L-A-Y, Santa Sleigh. The Children, that's a good one. All the kids become killers at Christmas. I love stories like that. Anyway, there's just not enough of them. That's the point. What we're doing makes so much more sense. All right, back to the movie. Remember people used to say everybody's a critic. That used to be, now it's everybody's a programmer. Who else does a Phantasm marathon, okay? Nobody. It's unique. Not that I have to defend my decisions. Have you ever seen Anna and the Apocalypse? It's a Scottish zombie musical comedy set at Christmas time. It's a zomcom. Okay, so here's a good place to talk about how the movie goes all surreal on us. When Mike is in the antique store and he finds the old picture of the tall man driving the hearse, and the picture animates and the tall man looks at him, we're in so many new levels of plot that it boggles, because first of all, we're kind of being told that the tall man is immortal, like a vampire, he never dies. Second, that everything he touches is magic. Third, that he's somehow inside the brain of Mike. And then when they go back out on the road, Mike wakes up in the mortuary with evil hands all over him, but it's a dream. He's really in the antique store lady's car, but Reggie's overturned ice cream truck is not a dream. But how did that happen? Did the dwarf formerly known as Tommy jump out of the freezer and show supernatural powers and destroy the truck? The hooded creature that attacks Mike and the women, is that Tommy? There's a school of film critics who say that this movie is in the tradition of European surrealist cinema. And they are talking about directors like Buñuel in Spain and Jean Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast in France and Alain René's Last Year at Marienbad in France and Roman Polanski's Repulsion in Poland and Diabolique, movies like that. And they say that all these movies have the following characteristics. Time-space disorientation, check. Nightmarish reality, check. Primal mist, check. Because remember the ice cream freezer condensation, startling the tall man? Moving still photographs, check. Mirror images, check. Hands thrust through the ground, check. And one that we haven't seen yet, a portal to another time dimension. Now, of course, if you ask the people who actually worked on the movie, they'll tell you we were just making up whatever we thought would be scary. So it's one or the other. It's either sophisticated European surrealist cinema or stoners with cameras. You choose. And by the way, this whole story takes place in Oregon. Now, how do I know that? Because Coscarelli said it did. I don't see anything in the actual film that identifies as Oregon, but that's what the man said. And speaking of Oregon, Oregon is a recreational use state, and we're coming down the home stretch here, so I would say go ahead.
Okay, sorry I lost you there, guys. I had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we appear to be okay. We are still at the 56-minute mark here for our first movie review with Joe Bob on The Last Drive-In. This is, again, Season 3. where it's a little bit of a Christmas theme, but not really because it's a Phantasm marathon. But as I can see, we're still at like 56 minutes on the stream, a little bit over an hour here on Twitch, and we are still doing okay on time as it's about 10:20 here in Buffalo, New York. So after this, we'll get into the third movie watch along.
Every character.
A little bit of technical difficulties right there. I do apologize.
As quickly as possible. So Jody is now flying.
Thank you for everybody staying with the episode.
One of the movie's least probable decisions. But then again, surrealism. So let's go with that for now. Roll the film.
And we're actually coming down to the end here of the first episode of Phantasm.
Jody. And if he looks familiar, that's because you saw him in Summer School Teachers, 1974. Remember that? He's a professional singer-songwriter, actually. He teaches at the St. Helens School of the Performing Arts and Sciences in Fresno. I wonder how many of his students nag him until he sings Sitting Here at Midnight. Probably not that many.
Didn't get a chance to check my battery on my phone, but we should still be okay. We should still be okay. We're still taking segment breaks, though. Coming down to the end of the episode, like I said.
Okay, now you see why I wanted you to hit that wild turkey during that segment. Since we probably wouldn't be able to figure out why there's a portal to another planet in the dwarf packaging room of the mortuary, Mike suddenly blurts out the whole motivation of the tall man because he found out. How exactly did he find out? He found out from being mind controlled by the tall man. I mean, that's my theory, because remember, when he leaves the house, the tall man grabs him, and the tall man is always appearing in his dreams, and the tall man sees him and talks to him at the weirdest times. I think the idea is that...
I believe also they made a movie like a couple years ago called The Tall Man. Completely different than what is happening here in Phantasm. Might be based off of the same character, though.
Once the tall man locks onto you...
I was always kind of told that the movie The Tall Man was actually more related to the game Slender Man than anything with Phantasm, but could be wrong. Don't quote me on it. But obviously both characters share a similar name.
He can sort of teleport his consciousness around the movie like a perpetual jump scare, but only for Mike. For some reason, he wants Mike, and we're not sure why. I'm going to ask Reggie about it when he gets here, because, yes, Reggie Bannister, who plays Reggie the Ice Cream Man in the movie, will be joining us during the second movie in the marathon tonight. And normally, you don't ask actors to explain plot points, but in this case, I don't know anybody in the world who has spent more hours thinking about Phantasm, thinking about all the Phantasms, than Reggie Bannister, who has been in every Don Coscarelli movie except Beastmaster. And so, of course, he's been in every Phantasm, and he's seen every twist, and he's considered it. And not only that, he actually worked at the Sunnyside Mortuary and Cemetery as a flower delivery guy. So how weird is that? Vietnam veteran, folk singer, founding member of the Greenwood County Singers. Still lives in California up by Lake Arrowhead, and still loves Phantasm after all these years. And right now, Reggie is going to flash back to his tuning fork, which he always carries with him because he's a folk singer in real life and a folk singer in the movie. And he's going to use that tuning fork to alter the compacted dwarf shipping plans. So roll film for the stunning conclusion of Phantasm, the ending that actually pissed off a whole lot of people.
The ending was not liked. It was not well received, ladies and gentlemen.
Right here for Willard Green.
Audiences wanted a different ending. When it came to Phantasm, that's probably why they tried to make 5 or 6 more movies.
Turntable Rentals, and he charged $1,163 for those spheres. The official name of them is Sentinel Spheres, I guess because they guard the mortuary, they guard the secret room. Willard died before the movie came out, so he never got to see how famous his brain drills became. You can buy them for $15 online, but I think those are unauthorized, though. I'm not sure. Like
I said, ladies and gentlemen, don't get caught up. Don't spend all your money on the fucking sphere. Don't be out there spending hundreds of thousands of dollars when you could get them for $15 off of the Amazon, or even more than that, fucking like a Temu website, one of those little like low budget websites where everything's like made in China and it just is looked to be a resemblance of the actual thing, but really you're just buying a knockoff.
movie came out.
Save your money,
some
chat.
Of the theaters were rigged for the silver spheres. They would fly through the theater during the screening like a William Castle thing. I'm not sure how they did that, but AFCO Embassy called it Visualrama. You could watch this movie in Visualrama, which meant metallic spheres are flying around over your head while the movie's on. And, I should also mention Fred Myrow. One reason the film is scary when it shouldn't be is he wrote that creepy, haunting musical theme that they use throughout the movie. That's the same composer who did the music for Soylent Green. And Fred was from a musical family. His grandfather was the manager of Duke Ellington. And his father wrote many popular Tin Pan Alley songs, including You Make Me Feel So Young, the Sinatra standard. Angus Scrimm as the tall man, the great Angus Scrimm. We'll talk about him during the next film. Just too much to cover here. The movie is too deep. It operates on too many levels.
It's a deep movie, chat.
It's far down into the psyche of the viewer, expanding our understanding of time and space and the nature of evil and other dimensions and other planets and midgets. I mean, little people, not anatomically challenged people, aspirational tall people.
It's not just a movie about silver spears from space trying to kill your ass. It's got deeper than that. It's got deeper meaning to it, chat. And you just gotta watch the movie to find that out.
No, that's wrong.
Maybe a little bit of a different meaning for each person who watches it. That's up for you to decide.
Height rebels, size warriors, compacted pride, baby. If I keep this up, I'm gonna get punched in the knees.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we're about to finish Phantasm 1. Yes, this is the next segment break after the end credits. So this is the end of Phantasm 1.
So yeah, there are two kinds of endings that people hate. One is the to be continued ending. People will throw things at the screen if you do that to them. But second only to that ending is the it was only a dream ending. And this movie sort of gets a pass on the only a dream thing.
Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, you don't see a lot of people doing the to be continued nowadays when it comes to movies. That kind of pisses people off. You know, if you're going to pull a fucking Marvel Avengers kind of like Endgame kind of thing where it's like, all right, we did part 1 and then there's going to be part 2. You might as well just make an entire movie with both parts because people are going to be pissed. All right. Now you can get away with it was a dream scenario. Okay. That's been done more times than not nowadays. Everybody likes to do it was only a dream. There's been so many situations in movies where the end of the movie is it was only a dream, right? So they probably all learned that ideology here from Phantasm.
Because the whole movie is so dreamlike. And because they do that jump scare at the end with the tall man being still alive and he grabs the boy and pulls him through the mirror into the other dimension. Once again, something we're going to ask Reggie Bannister about during the next film. I don't know how many times Reggie has died and come back to life in these movies. He dies twice in this first one. Plus his ice cream truck gets destroyed and I don't think they ever bought him a new one. So, the first cut of this movie got an X rating from the MPAA ratings board.
The ice cream truck did get destroyed. You know, when you destroy an ice cream truck, that's got to take at least $50,000 out of the budget right there. So the movie was probably made, like Joe Bob said, for about $200K, maybe even more than that, $300K, I believe he said. But if you're going to fucking destroy an ice cream truck in the movie, you're going to lose about $50K.
X for violence, which almost never happened in 1979. And the second cut and the third, they had to go back to the board 4 times before they could get their R rating so it could be released in theaters. The movie was a big hit because it was, I guess, one of a kind. I mean, it's a horror movie, but it's also a sci-fi movie. It's a coming-of-age movie. It's a stoner movie. It's about fear of death. It's about fear of losing your family. It's about fear that corporations aren't telling us anything. Again,
ladies and gentlemen, audiences in 1979 basically considered it a comedy at the end of the day. Not a horror, not a science fiction movie. To them, it was more of a comedy, which is kind of ironic because now it's on so many horror lists. It's basically considered a classic in the horror genre nowadays.
It's a fear you'll be seduced by a sexy woman and get your brain drilled by a flying metal ball, after which you'll get crushed down to the size of a small child and dressed up like a little monk and packaged into a metal garbage can and shipped off for use as slave labor on another planet. That universal fear that we all have. The red planet, by the way, is the Santa Fe Dam in Irwindale, California. Now you're thinking, well, that's weird. I didn't see any water in that scene. And that's because it's one of those California dams where there is no water. It's just there so that when it rains every 347 years, everybody doesn't die because their house washes down the San Gabriel River and becomes a YouTube clip. So a lot of people notice that the little dwarf monks look a lot like George Lucas's Jawas in the Star Wars movies. But Coscarelli says that's just a coincidence. He had developed the idea and bought the costumes before the Jawas appeared. And anyway, there weren't any lawsuits, so I guess he's telling the truth. All right, coming up later is the rest of the Phantasm lineup as we go all night in this celebration of the delusion of a disordered mind. Remember that trailer? That's what they said these movies were about. The delusions of Don Coscarelli's disordered mind. But right now, it's time for Joe Bob's mailbag. And are they still bitching about the
lovely Darcy, ladies and gentlemen, the mail girl?
But now we've also had a backlash from all the hardcore Phantasm fans.
Oh, they're going to kill me. They're going to kill me on the social media. I'm going to make one little factual error about Phantasm. We're going to have 9,700 emails. I just know that.
And that's what the internet's for, to make sure you don't get out of line.
Oh.
That's what the internet is for, ladies and gentlemen, to correct us on every little piece of information that we are incorrect about. Joe Bob knows that Phantasm has a hardcore fan base, and he's got to be fucking accurate, or they're coming for blood.
Right.
I got a letter for you.
Yeah?
This is from a blogger named Michael Underling of Springfield, Missouri.
He's a blogger?
A vlogger.
A video blogger. A video blogger?
A vlogger.
Yeah, all right. Joe Bob, I wanted to thank you for influencing me over the years. You seem to come at various points of my life when I'm going through transitions. Back in the 90s, when I entered my teenage years, my mom didn't care if I stayed up late on the weekend. So the second Nickelodeon's programming block, SNCC, went off the air. I haven't heard of that. SNCC.
What?
When that
Nick
program...
shit.
Really?
Yeah.
You watched that too?
Oh, yeah.
And Nick at Night came on after that. I'd quickly tune into Monster Vision. I don't know what it is, but having somebody watching a movie with you, even if only on TV, felt like I was a part of something. Had a lot of great memories, falling asleep on the couch, to learning about this director or that actor. Fast forward 17 years. I work in film now. I have a sizable YouTube channel that has videos that are heavily influenced by many of the films you showed. On demand is nice, but I miss patiently waiting and looking forward to an event that I can share with other people. Take care on the haunted highway of life, Michael Underland. Okay, Mike, I did check out your videos. You had some awesome video game-based fantasy stuff on there. But a lot of people said this about the show, that they really miss being able to watch movies with a host, with somebody else.
It's a completely different experience.
Well, do they talk to you during the movie?
Yeah.
So they're not really watching the movie, they're talking to you?
Well, they're like multitasking.
Can they see you? Is it like Skype when the movie's on?
No, but it's not a bad idea.
So, you know, if they had two screens, you know, and one would be the movie and one would be you, that would work, right?
Probably.
But that'd be sensory overload for me. I couldn't do that.
I can do way more screens than that.
Is that a woman thing?
Multitasking? Sure.
All right. Well, we're going to be needing you for Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead, which is coming up next.
Wait.
Phantasm 3 up next, ladies and gentlemen.
We had to cut out Phantasm 2. I'm going to explain all that in the intro to the next movie.
You're cutting out one of the movies.
It's a matter of principle. There's a reason that we can't show Phantasm 2.
It all comes down to copyright restrictions, chat.
I'm going to explain it in the intro. Just don't worry about it. I will not do anything that violates my code of professional ethics. All right?
I know that.
You couldn't get Phantasm 2 in the Phantasm Marathon.
I know that too.
All right. Did I ever tell you the one about the man who got a facelift for his birthday?
I have to deal with the same fight over here on YouTube.
All right. He spends $20,000 on the facelift and he feels really good about the results. And so on the way home, he stops at a 7-Eleven. And when he's leaving the 7-Eleven, he says to the clerk, "How old do you think I am?" And the clerk says, "About 35. And the man says, "I'm actually 47. And he feels really happy. Next day, he goes into McDonald's for lunch and he asks the order taker the same question. And the order taker says, "Oh, you look about 29. And so very proudly, he says, "I'm actually 47. And that night, he's standing at a bus stop, and so he decides to do it again. He asks this elderly woman the same question, and she says, "Well, I'm 85 years old, and my eyesight is going, but when I was young, There was a surefire way of telling a man's age. If I put my hand down the front of your pants and feel everything between your legs, I would be able to tell your exact age. Well, since there was nobody around, the man thinks, what the hell? So he let her put her hand down his pants and feel around. She continued to feel around down there for 10 minutes. And then she said, okay, I'm done. You're 47. And he was stunned. He said, that was brilliant. Do that. The woman says, I was standing behind you at McDonald's.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Phantasm 3 coming up next. We are going to take a little bit of a 1.5, 2 minute break here. And then I will be right back. We are doing very good on time. We're at about 1 hour and 12 here on YouTube, 1 hour and 25 over here on Twitch. And like I said, after it's all said and done, we are going to get ready for the Eminem Death of Slim Shady album review / reaction, however you want to say it in today's terms. But we will be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here with me. And I do apologize earlier for the technical difficulties here on YouTube. Don't know what that was all about. Sometimes my phone likes to take a shit on me as well, though. We'll be right back. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves, we are back. We have returned. We are going to get ready here for the next movie in the Phantasm Watchalong with Joe Bob. This is Phantasm 3. Trying to get our camera set up here. It's definitely cutting off a little bit of the 50-inch plasma there, but that's all right. Hopefully that helps us fight all the copyright here on the bitch-ass YouTube platform. So we will continue now with our watch-along.
You guys know I'm a First Amendment guy, right? I believe in total freedom of expression, especially when it comes to nakedness and depravity in all its variations in the mainstream cinema.
This episode is actually 51 minutes, so I won't try to do too many pauses where I'm talking because, again, we are trying to stay on that time limit because later tonight at midnight, we do want to listen to that Eminem album. So we aren't going to try to take too many pauses during this part of the show. We'll let Joe Bob do most of the talking.
But there are certain things that I do believe we should restrain ourselves from depicting. I do not think we should show graphic harm to a child or an animal on screen. I don't think people should make snuff films. Except in the case of the cast of Riverdance. I would actually watch a movie in which wild animals eat the river dancers. But the reason we're not watching Phantasm 2 tonight, and we're skipping ahead to Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead, is that Don Coscarelli, in his misguided wisdom, included in his first sequel one of the most terrifying scenes that I've ever witnessed. A mint-condition 1971 Hemi Cuda flipping over, landing on its roof, and bursting into flame. That's like the guy who killed Clarence the Lion. All I can say is, it's amazing what they'll let people do for the sake of a gall-dang movie. And now we have one less Hemi Cuda, the greatest muscle car in the history of the world, and they used it for a stupid movie stunt.
Destroyed the Hemi Cuda.
Mona Lisa. That's like having Panda for dinner. That's like destroying the original poker-playing dogs. What were they thinking? That car, you could just barely touch the gas pedal and make it sound like a 747 taking off. The engine in that thing was so big you had to use a booster seat to see over it. People would drive 100 miles in that car and say, honey, did we hit something? They'd stop the car, go around and look at the grill work. There'd be a Canadian moose with its eyes bulging out. Felt like maybe you ran over a garden hose or something. That was the most powerful car ever built. You can't even get insurance on those things. You got to go to Lloyd's of London and make a deal where if you get into any kind of accident, they get to hack off your hand or something.
Joe Bob, I love this Hemi Cuda, ladies and gentlemen. Muscle car, classic muscle car. Me and Corvette kind of guy. I've always wanted the Corvette. Maybe one day, chat. Maybe one day.
You say, can I get a policy on this car? And they say, sure, it's the same agent who writes policies on the F-18 fighter plane. Anyway, that's just irresponsible, you know? Anytime they ruffle the fur on a poodle in a movie, you got the ASPCA complaining, you got PETA protesting, you got people going to jail for poodle abuse, but you can just trash a beautiful machine. Impunity. I'm sick about it. You know, Plymouth only made the Hemi Cuda from 1969 and 1971, even though the Barracuda, that went on to 74, before communist influence in this country in the form of federal safety standards and insurance company regulations and exhaust emissions rules decreed that a 426 cubic inch Hemi V8 engine with 2x4 barrel carbs pulling 426 horses, the kind of car that made this nation great. Did any other country have a street engine that tough? I don't think so, and I'm talking to you, Germany. Communist influences in our government made it impossible for that car to be manufactured beyond 1971, and as a result, they're so rare today that they go for millions of dollars.
What were you doing? Destroying this car in the second movie. You could have not only made profit on the movie, you could have fucking kept the classic car and then see that go for millions of dollars today. They just weren't thinking back then, chat. Again, this is like early 80s. They just didn't have the right kind of mindset back then making some of these movies.
Prices that were increased, by the way, by the destruction of a Hemi in Phantasm 2. I mean, people say they own them, but do they have the original vinyl top, the original rear spoiler, the Hemi fenders, the window louvers, and the 440 Super Commando package from the factory? I think not. This is why there's so many people with fucking Dodge Challengers winning the muscle car shows. You know, you don't have enough Hemis to go around. That's all it is. All right, it still bothers me, and we're not going to contribute to it. Doug Palinkas.
The Hemis are going extinct, chat. Joe Bob wants his Hemi Cuda, all right? They're going extinct. They're an endangered species, and they were even more endangered back in the early 80s when they were just fucking destroying them on camera for a movie.
A friend of mine in Mentor, Ohio, longtime viewer of all my shows, he was the owner of the last production Hemi Cuda ever made. 1971, had a few 1972 parts installed at the factory, and he agrees with me. That scene in Phantasm 2 is pornography. That is something that was just never meant for human eyes. The original movie Phantasm 1, they used a 1971 340 4-speed Cuda. I mean, it wasn't really a Hemi. They put some chrome rims on it. They flared the quarter panels. They installed a black tinted sunroof so Mike could pop up out of the top of it and kill an alien dwarf. But all of that is allowed.
I would like to add my mom's boyfriend right now drives a Volkswagen 2024 Taos. He's an engineer, so he definitely got like the latest model for the Volkswagen Taos. Taos, however you want to pronounce it. I'm not fucking German, so it's whatever to me. Again, like I said, the dream is to one day have a Corvette. Maybe we'll get there. I just hope and pray to God that the Corvette is going to appear in my garage one day, but, you know, sometimes you just can pray. So
that's what you should do. You should fake the Hemi. If you're making a movie about the Hope Diamond, you don't reuse the real Hope Diamond. You use some costume jewelry from the art department, right? Okay. But just so you can follow the story, let me point out some of the essential differences between Phantasm and Phantasm 2. Now, it took Don Coscarelli 9 years to make the sequel because he didn't want to make it. He was holding out for something else, and those were the years that many people considered the greatest years in horror history because you had Friday the 13th, you had Nightmare on Elm Street, you had Reanimator, Hellraiser, and Universal Pictures was embarrassed that they didn't have a horror franchise. They felt like they were the studio that invented horror, and now they're playing catch up. And so what they did is they...
As I've said before, ladies and gentlemen, of course, horror and the horror genre was really significant with Universal Studios when it first came onto the scene. Because again, the classic Universal monsters were really responsible for creating a lot of the genre that we know today. You know, they had Dracula, they had Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, one of my favorites, Phantom of the Opera. They were so significant in the early kind of generation for horror. Once the slasher genre kind of takes, you know, its full potential around the 80s, I mean, they kind of just lost track of a lot of that stuff. I believe Psycho is a Universal movie as well. I know they have it at Universal Studios. Like when they do the tour for like the people when they get on like the trolley and they take you all around the studio sets and whatnot. I believe Psycho was a Universal movie as well. But once the 80s came around, I mean, you just had the slasher genre really, you know, in its full potential and at full force, which is great for me because, again, the slasher genre is one of my favorite versions of the horror genre, if not my favorite. So, and since we're kind of talking about the Christmas theme tonight, since we're kind of talking about slashers and the Christmas theme right now, one of my favorite movies right now, Terrifier 3 is going to have its own little Christmas twist. So I'm excited to see that. Of course, that's going to come out in October. But I'm really excited to see Terrifier 3 and just to see kind of what they do with the Christmas theme, because me, myself as well, I've always kind of wanted to make a slasher kind of Christmas movie. And I was just so fucking excited when I heard that Damien Leone and everybody at the Terrifier cast and crew was going to do like a Christmas version for the third movie. So I am definitely excited to see Terrifier 3.
Started buying sequel rights to everything. They bought sequel rights to Psycho, Chucky, Evil Dead, Halloween, and they finally went to Don Coscarelli and talked him into a sequel. So part 2 had more money. Therefore, it has more of everything. Part 2 has 3 flying silver balls instead of the 1 silver ball in the original flick.
It's got 3 silver balls.
Hand instead of a levitating severed finger. And part 2 is also the one where they really start amping up the weapons. Reggie has that quadruple-barreled shotgun and the giant blowtorch. But otherwise, exact same movie. I mean, the tall man is still going around the countryside, robbing graves, pumping some kind of yellow fluid into the veins of the dead people and using them to strengthen his army of killer dwarf monks. Reggie blows up his own house to kill the dwarves. That's one of the most famous explosions in the whole series. They use 7 cameras to get that shot. The money
fuck the house, just blow it up. Kind of like when you see a nasty spider in your crib, you're just gonna fuck the house. Like, just get rid of the house. Don't even bother fucking selling it.
Oh yeah.
Just blow it to smithereens. Call it a day.
The tall man sucks that little piece of yellow phlegm off the end of the embalming needle. One of the most amazing gross out shots in horror history, even better than when the Catholic priest plunges the big knife into Grandpa's mouth. And part 2 has a whole lot of Catholic stuff in it. I mean, we got Catholic churches, Catholic priests. It's got that gloomy exorcist feeling going on. Oh, also, there's that famous scene where Reggie blows away 4 dwarves with 1 shot from the 4-barrel shotgun. We got cremated zombies. We got the zombie who has to hack his hand off to get away. We got the exploding rat. We got the old chainsaw to the groin. We got the golden flying drilling spear as opposed to the silver ones.
I do want to add to that, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I was raised Catholic, being in an Italian and Irish household here. My mom is very much Catholic. For me, I kind of stopped being Catholic when they put me in a Catholic school, and this is like pre-K. I got expelled for wearing a Harry Potter shirt. So I knew right then and there where my religion stands. And more so nowadays, like I kind of, believe that my religion is more Wiccan and, just white magic and stuff like that. But I definitely have not that many views on religion. I don't care if your religion is, if you believe in one God or many. That's kind of where I stand with it. I don't get too, into things like that. Again, I'm not so much of a political person. I just believe in what I believe in. And I believe in horror movies. So, of course, back in the day, all this kind of stuff was a little bit more frowned upon.
This stuff comes out of the mind of Don Coscarelli, and he just splashes it up there on the screen, and we never know exactly what it all means, but it looks cool. Also, at the end of part 2, they have a great tall man death scene, but then they bring him back 5 minutes later because he has to star in Phantasm 3, which didn't come out until 1994. So at this point, they're turning out sequels about once every 7 or 8 years, and every time a new one comes out, the producers assume that we remember the plot of the last movie, when the truth is, nobody could even figure out the plot of the very first one. There's always a lot of talk about who the tall man is, where he is, where he comes from, whether he's dead or alive, why he wants the dead bodies, what the flying Christmas tree ornaments are for, and I never understand a word of that talk, but it's Neato Mosquito special effects with all kinds of exploding goo. Now, this time the tall man, as played by the ghostly Angus Scrim, is hanging around eastern Oregon, and he's going from small town to small town, cleaning out the mortuaries, while his army of zombie monks roam the countryside in pink hearses. They're trying to kill the remaining members of the cast. In part 3, Reggie is driving a 1970 Hemi Cuda convertible. And while we're on the subject, now that these movies are sort of one extended road trip to fight the tall man and his army of dwarves, where is Reggie getting all those $100 bills that he's always pulling out of his pocket to pay for stuff? Reggie's ice cream truck got destroyed early in part 1. And I would be surprised if Reggie had socked away a lot in his 401k, even in his best years as an ice cream vendor. So how's he even got money for shotgun ammo? But part 3 is kind of controversial, and I'll tell you why. As we soldier on through the night, Reggie sets out to rescue his dead bandmate's soul, and on the way he joins up with a little kid who's become a grade school Rambo ever since both his parents were killed by the tall man, and the two of them join up with a crew-cutted black Amazon kung fu queen named Rocky to destroy all the evil forces of the universe. Multiple brain damage ensues. We have 23 dead bodies, 2 breasts, exploding eyes, multiple fireballs, exploding hearse, zombie monks feeding on human flesh, multiple exploding heads, electric drill attack, needle to the neck, hatchet to the forehead, skull drilling daggers to the forehead, 1 flying monster hand with teeth, 1 motor vehicle chase with crash and burn, face peeling, heads roll, hands roll, kung fu, baseball bat foo, frisbee with a razor edge foo, cryogenic spear foo, Drive-In Academy Award nominations for Angus Scrim as the tall man for saying, "Nothing is ever as it seems." Kevin Connors as the kid who takes no prisoners. Reggie Bannister for once again trying to sleep with the female lead and striking out, this time by using the pickup line, "Ever try vanilla?" And Gloria Lynn Henry as the Kung Fu Soul Sister for getting into a hellacious cat fight with a zombie. 3 stars.
It's a 3-star movie.
Says, check it out.
Phantasm 3, 3-star movie.
People are going to be upset that we're not showing part 2, but it's Christmas. It's a season of peace and goodwill and bad food. Why is there no Christmas food?
I know, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Bob skipped part 2 in the Phantasm Marathon.
I'm telling you, everything started going downhill when we allowed the government to say, you can't drive that car. That car is not legal. that engine is banned. You know, the Hemi-Cuda, it got 4 miles to the gallon, 5 on the highway, and that was leaded gas, like God intended.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, my mom's boyfriend out here driving a Volkswagen 2024 Taos. He's an engineer. He can afford it. Me, personally, one day I want the Corvette. We'll see if we ever get to that day. And again, Joe Bob said his reason for not playing Phantasm 2 is because of the destruction of the Hemi-Cuda. Me, I believe it comes down more to copyright issues because the same thing kind of happened back in the day when Joe Bob tried to do the Friday the 13th movie marathon where they had to skip a movie and basically continue the rest of the marathon without showing like part 6 or 7, I think it was.
Coscarelli movie, you don't really have to worry about aging out of the business because Don will just keep using you in all the sequels no matter how old you get. And if you die in the first movie, or you die before the first movie starts, depending on how you interpret the role of Jodie, then no matter how many times you die, you can come back in both human form and in the form of a silver sphere. Because this is a whole new mind-blowing thing with the silver spheres, because now we have evil spheres with the dagger sticking out of them, and friendly spheres with the soul of Jodie inside. And
hey, what's up, Joe Bob? I'm here.
Mr. Reggie Bannister.
I would be here.
All right.
The Ice Cream Man makes an appearance.
That, you could call Phantasm the resurrection horror film.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like two different things. Resurrection, horror film.
Yeah.
But we do it.
You do death well and you do resurrection well.
Thank you very much, Joe.
You always know how to make an entrance, Reggie. I've talked to you at conventions, and what really amazes me about you is that after all these years, I mean, going on 40 years, right?
Yeah.
After all this time, you're still not tired of talking about Phantasm.
Well, it's just, if you look up Phantasm in the dictionary, it's all about, things that kind of mesmerize you. You know, a single human being sees something, and is it real or is it not real, or am I here or am I not here? And
and that's how you feel after being in all those Phantasm movies. You don't know if you're here or not here.
When you see it, that's how you feel.
Okay, Reg, I want to ask you about your balls. Okay, what the hell is going on in the first 15 minutes of Phantasm 3: Lord of the Dead? Because you just killed the tall man at the end of part 2. So how is he here at the beginning of part 3?
It's Phantasm.
It's Phantasm.
That's kind of like,
That's the most accurate explanation. You just have to go along with the plot of the movie, and you just have to agree that in horror movies, the killer never truly dies. There's always going to be a sequel, and the killer is most likely going to be lurking around.
I got it. But what's going on with the silver balls? Because first we had 1 ball, then we had 3 balls.
I also would like to say, since this is kind of like a horror / science fiction kind of movie, really the furthest that science fiction kind of goes today in a lot of horror movies. I mean, I know, personally a lot more shit is about like paranormal activity and ghosts and shit, which I absolutely hate. Like I said, it's one of my least favorite genres, the found footage shit. I remember back in the day watching Blair Witch Project for the first time, wasn't impressed with it then, and now everything is basically just a Blair Witch replica, so. But with me, what I'm trying to say is, the furthest we really see science fiction go in horror movies today is kind of with the alien genre, alien genre, and Alien itself, the Alien series. So if you're looking for pretty good horror movies nowadays that include science fiction in them, you could probably find it in an Alien movie.
It's 1 ball at a time, in the first movie. Then we had 3 balls. Now with this movie, we have a friendly ball.
Well, you can never have enough balls. And I mean, really, that for one thing, the ball is representative of the universe.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
We've been looking for that all night.
That's what it kind of represents. It's the ultimate, turned into the ultimate weapon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jody figured out how to become a ball.
Sorta, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Can that quadruple-barreled shotgun that you have, which is very impressive, by the way, can that really fire?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we have two. We have what they call a stunt gun, which doesn't fire, and then they have the gun that does fire. And and so like there's a scene where I think I'm standing outside a hearse, and I've got the gun over my shoulder. There's a creature crawling towards me from the top of the hearse, and I sense it, and I just go. I pull both. That's got two triggers, right?
Okay.
And I just go both of them at the same time, and. Man, you saw the flames go through the barrels and into the air, and that's they used shotgun shells that were just packed with powder, and so when they go off, they just flame out. You know.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it looks great.
Has anybody ever shot live ammo out of that?
You know, I'm sure. I'm sure somebody has. I never did, but I'm not so sure that the guy who built it, designed it, didn't take it out to the desert somewhere.
I mean, you'd be so tempted.
Bam, bam.
Yeah, you'd have to one time at least.
Oh, don't you think?
All right. Well, we have a lot of time to get into your career and your history with the franchise, and I'm honored that you're here tonight for this special Christmas celebration. And
I just want to add too, I think it's so much cooler when shotguns are used with incendiary ammo. I love incendiary ammo and shotguns. Maybe one day I'll get to use one myself. But fucking A, it is just so much cooler than just shooting a regular shotgun. Let me tell you, chat. You get some incendiary rounds, you blast them off at a dummy or maybe even a real life target, you'll be good to go.
All right, this is going to be a very Phantasm Christmas here on Shudder. Right. And one more thing, in your opinion, Reggie, are Phantasm movies stoner movies?
Yes.
Well, you live in California, which is a recreational use state. Yeah. You live up in the beautiful Lake Arrowhead area, in the mountains up there. So do you ever, you know?
No.
No?
I will tell you that in my youth.
Okay, got it. Because I wanted to ask you, I mean, in our opinion, Phantasm 3 takes quite a bit of concentration. So we're recommending a low-level buzz, at least for the first 2/3 of the movie. So relaxed but focused, mild buzz. That's what we're going for.
You got to be relaxed but focused, ladies and gentlemen. If you're smoking, you got to be at least on a strain that got you relaxed, got your focus on the movie, so that way you can pay attention to what's going on in these fucking Phantasm films just to be able to put a plot together.
And that calls for some Jack the Ripper, which is a mild lemon haze. No more than 4 hits of that right now. And if you live in a Texas-style state, as opposed to a Colorado-style state, you can substitute a low-proof cocktail, maybe a grasshopper, something like that. Or if you're not that girly, you know, you can't drink a grasshopper. How about a Christmas mule? That's a hot drink, warm ginger beer with pear vodka. Just one of those. Nothing elaborate right now. This is going to get real confusing. Do you agree that this is going to get real confusing, Reggie?
I would say, I don't know. Confused.
Okay.
Oh no! Wait.
All right, roll the movie. We made up a couple of Christmas mules here.
Oh my God!
Here in advance, so with extra cinnamon. So
extra cinnamon.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Because we are in Texas, and so we do obey all local ordinances, no matter how weed unfriendly those ordinances are.
Right. So. I can dig it. You can dig it. We can dig it.
Joe Bob sipping on a Christmas mule. For the Phantasm 3 watch-along, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, somehow these are all related to the theme of Christmas. Next segment break, 27 minutes into the movie. So again, we skipped Phantasm 2 because of copyright issues. Joe Bob, he blames the destruction of the Hemi Cuda, but we can more so say that it was all because of copyright, the thing that keeps us all restricted nowadays. They're going to be sipping on some Christmas mules while watching Phantasm 3.
All right, Reggie. Well, there's just all kinds of stuff in part 3. First, we got 3 Clockwork Orange style punk rockers who lock you in the trunk. You know. Then we got a little 10-year-old Rambo Home Alone kid who turns out to be your best friend. And the whole thing is in this burned out town that looks like it was hit by an earthquake and a nuclear attack and a 240-day outdoor rock concert without enough porta potties. You know, you guys kind of went wild. Well, you know, this one was wild, don't you think?
Yeah, I thought so. And, you know, we actually, we found a town, an actual town, just a kind of it was a one-street, you know, town. And, yeah, pretty much
tore it up?
Pretty much dead. And that's, you know, when like we're walking on the wooden sidewalks and stuff. The one scene with where the tall man is walking down the sidewalks, and it's kind of slow motion, and it's just clomp, 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 clomp. And it's so eerie, you know, because it's just this town where nobody lives.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I never would have known that all of this is in Oregon. The story is in Oregon.
That's another interesting thing. They say that these Phantasm movies take place in Oregon, but yet I believe they were all shot and filmed in California. Now, one of the actors here claims that they just found a small town that was basically abandoned. I mean, just a little ghost town, and that they shot the movie there. So
I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
That these movies are all in Oregon, right? Is that right?
They were supposed to be.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be.
Did you ever once film a single scene in Oregon?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, you probably have.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, all the Phantasm movies apparently take place in Oregon. Not a single one of them shot and filmed in Oregon. I believe actually more so in California.
Have more screen time than any other Phantasm actor. Go back to the beginning. Tell me how you got involved with this. First of all, you came back from was it the Army? Were you in the Army, Navy?
Yeah.
Army.
Army.
Yeah.
Vietnam.
Yeah. You came back from Vietnam. Yeah.
I made it.
That would explain how you do look like you know what you're doing when you have any kind of weapon in your hand.
You betcha.
Yeah. And so then what happened after you got back?
Oh, I came back, and it took me a little while to get my bearings, you know, back into society after Vietnam. And then I did, and I started, I got into a friend of mine, got me into a group.
You were doing kind of California folk rock type?
Again, ladies and gentlemen, just want to add to that thought. Americans, we did not belong in Vietnam. The Vietnam War was not really a war between the Americans and the enemy. And once the Americans did join the Vietnam War, we did not help it in any kind of way. The Americans actually lost in the Vietnam War, which is why a lot of North Vietnam, a lot of North Korea today as well, is basically all considered the enemy. Okay, they did not win in the Vietnam War. We went down there to help the South, and it kind of turned into a little bit of a backfire. If you know anything about Vietnam War and the history behind that, one of my favorite wars of all time, just because I love studying the history behind it. But yes, Americans did not belong in the Vietnam War, and Americans also lost in the Vietnam War. So
Yeah, it was folk rock.
And then you meet Don Coscarelli. Now, what did you think of Don?
Well, it was interesting because Don happened to see me. I was at Long Beach City College. He saw me in a play. I played this guy who answers an ad for a roommate. And it turns out that my character is gay as can be, flamboyantly gay. And I end up stripping down to pink panties and dancing around the stage. And
because you're also gay, or you like the fact that he's gay, or you're trying to impress him that you're not prejudiced against gay people?
No, in the play, I'm really gay.
Oh, you're really gay?
You're really gay.
And he's gay?
No, he's not. He's watching me prance around the stage in these pink panties.
But Don sees the pink panties and he hires you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Made him think of an action hero.
Okay. All right, Reggie, hold that thought because we're going to...
Goddamn Vietnam War hero turned into a pink panty dancing fucking flamboyant actor on the screen. What were these Hollywood directors thinking back in the 80s? I tell you what, chat.
Stay with you as the movie continues because I have some deep character Reggie questions for you. So
I got it.
Back to the movie. By the way, we were hoping we were going to do a little sitting here at midnight during the marathon. You know, the one song from the movie. But unfortunately, we have some lazy-ass shutter lawyers who don't want to bother to go fight with Don Coscarelli over the fee for singing the song on the air.
They can't sing the song, chat. They can't play the music. Like I've been saying the entire night, it comes down to copyright. We deal with the same bullshit here on YouTube.
So, that's the only musical interlude in any of the Phantasm movies, right? That's the only time. I mean, I know you have some songs that you do in the credits,
right?
But that's the only real song on screen. And people just don't care about history anymore. We could have made history with that tonight. It'd be like if we had Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr on the show, and they sang "I Want to Hold Your Hand Together," and they were actually holding hands. It would have been that kind of iconic moment. But no, we're too busy to work out those rights.
Next segment break, 41 minutes into Phantasm 3. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I have nothing but respect for the people who fought in the Vietnam War. I love all of our soldiers, all of our brothers and sisters who were a part of that. It's unfortunate that the North Vietnam and North Korea won that war, essentially. But history tells the test of time. We're also doing pretty good on time here. It's about 11:10, 11:11, Make-A-Wish chat right here on the dot. So soon we will be doing our Eminem Death of Slim Shady album reaction / review in just a couple minutes once we finish this.
Okay, Reggie, we got pink hearses, we got zombies, we got a kid named Tim, and a girl named Rocky who is not going to sleep with you, by the way.
No,
none of the hot
right.
women in any of these movies will ever sleep with you.
No, I never get the hot babe.
I know.
Yeah.
We've got a new name for the grave robbers. Lurkers, they call them here. I never heard that before. And by the way, you're peeling off those $100 bills at the orphanage, you know. Where is your money coming from as you roam across the Pacific Northwest in search of the tall man in order to liberate Mike? Where are you getting that cash?
You know, I can't really talk about that, Joe Bob. But I had a lot, didn't I?
Yeah, you did have a lot. See, this is why the fans of the franchise call this the What the Fuck sequel. Because it has so many twists that sort of boggles the imagination. And in fact, it had a very limited theatrical run. Most people saw it on video, isn't that correct? So, and the reason for the limited theatrical run, according to the studio, was, quote, disagreements with Don Coscarelli. Now, there's a kind of a recurring theme in Don's life. Creative differences. Don is tough on his.
Now, one thing I just want to add to that, since he kind of brings up how a lot of the sequels kind of changed because of creative differences, because of people having different thoughts and ideas of what they wanted to do on the movie. A lot of what that reminds me is like early Call of Duty video games. And for me, the original Modern Warfare series is far more better than all of the fucking remasters that they do today. Fucking Modern Warfare 2 remaster sucked. I'm not talking about the remake of the original Modern Warfare 2. I'm talking about the entire remaster that they did just a few years ago. And now I believe they're on Modern Warfare 3, but that game fucking sucks too. Essentially, what happened with the original Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 is that a lot of the people that were working on that game didn't have the same feelings towards a lot of the ideas that were being showcased, a lot of the final product that was the game. So essentially, I mean, if you know anything about Call of Duty, the original people who created Call of Duty were Infinity Ward, and then they basically just brought in Treyarch because Infinity Ward could no longer make a game every single year. It just became too much of a hassle trying to like force that much time and effort into a every year kind of game, right? So Infinity Ward originally created the Call of Duty series and also the Modern Warfare series, which again, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2, the original, and Modern Warfare 3, I still, hold dear to my heart as a trilogy. The original trilogy, not the fucking remaster that just came out a few years ago. But essentially what happened was people who worked at Infinity Ward didn't agree with a lot of the stuff that was in the final game, and then they ended up leaving and creating their own developmental team, which I believe nowadays is Sledgehammer and Raven. And Sledgehammer and Raven are responsible for my retirement of the Call of Duty series. I used to play competitively, but once they put out Advanced Warfare, that was the fucking end for me. I couldn't fucking take it no more. I basically dropped out of the series or retired in the series around the same time as Nadeshot. I mean, Advanced Warfare was like the worst Call of Duty in my opinion, and it was so bad it fucking retired me from playing competitively. So the last Call of Duty I ever enjoyed playing was Call of Duty Ghosts. And I still believe that they should make a Ghost sequel. When I played the Modern Warfare 2 remaster, it almost felt like that's what the fuck that game was like a Ghost kind of sequel. They still haven't made a Ghost sequel to this day. So you can kind of see where I'm at with my heart and everything. But, the best Call of Duties for me was Call of Duty 4, Call of Duty World at War, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the original, Black Ops 1, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, the original, Black Ops 2, and then Call of Duty Ghost. After that, I was fucking done because Advanced Warfare retired me, guys. I could not take the fucking Sledgehammer and the Raven bullshit.
His stuff, and what he wants, and he has a lot of creative differences.
We would jam ideas over the script before we'd shoot a scene, and every time I've worked with Don, it's been like this, all the way back to Jim the World's Greatest.
Oh yeah.
One of the reasons I like working with Don is because I can do that with him. I get the script, I memorize my lines and stuff like that, but then I flash on other stuff, and I go, oh yeah, that's really cool. How about you do that, and then we'll do this other stuff too. And we just, it's great because...
so it's a collaboration that you trust, that you've worked with for years.
You betcha.
And...
my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Had to talk to my mom real quick.
You're letting this kid drive the CUDA. Kevin Connors is the kid.
Let the kid drive the CUDA.
This is pretty much Kevin's only movie, I think. But he's a great actor. Did you get along well with Kevin?
Yeah. Each film has been like a family.
That's what every Phantasm actor always says. Yeah.
Really, I can imagine that because it's true. We just really get along.
See, this would explain the whole Don Coscarelli creative differences thing, because he's talking to people outside the family, and it's different from talking to people inside the family.
Yeah.
All right, back to the movie. And Reggie, by the way, something just happened in this movie.
Oh.
You would not get a child involved in your attempts to get laid, would you?
Never.
I didn't think so. Okay.
Never.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, somehow these are all considered Christmas movies to Joe Bob. Next segment break, 49 minutes into the movie, so it's actually coming down to the end of the movie now. Usually most horror movies only get over an hour, if that. Sometimes they are essentially ending at an hour.
Reggie, you fell for the old handcuff trick.
I got to tell you, it wasn't the handcuff trick, it was the hot babe trip.
Yeah, well, you always fall for that.
I always fall for that.
Yeah. You guys have just pulled up to, quote, the largest Gothic mausoleum in the Western U.S. And I saw an interview with Coscarelli one time where he said the main reason he decided to make part 3 was that you found this mausoleum in Compton or somewhere, right?
Yeah, it's a mausoleum called Angelus Abbey. I worked at Sunnyside Mausoleum. You take weird jobs. Day jobs when you're an actor or musician. I was both, but So yeah, I worked in the flower shop, and I would deliver the flowers to the crypts and stuff in the mausoleum, and the flower shop was right there. But we also delivered to Angelus Abbey. I got to know the owner, or the person who was running it actually, and we needed a place to shoot. And I said, what would you think about us coming in and shooting, some stuff here? And she went, oh, that's cool. That's okay. And we shot it there. It was
Well, that's great. It's so creepy. It gives me the bejabbers just to look at it,
Yeah, I can.
And for this next sequence, which involves you and Tim and Mike and Jody and the tall man going through all these various dimensions, I used to know what it means, but I don't think I do anymore. So what would be your recommendation if we want to go seriously deep into Phantasm Weed World?
Phantasm is kind of like a psychedelic experience.
Oh, so you would recommend LSD?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
But it plays like an LSD experience, or a psilocybin experience.
Okay.
In that things happen out of clear blue sky. And you're never sure where you're at. Is it real? Is it not real? What's going on?
Well, what was your weed of choice? Did you have one? When you were young?
If it was a joint, it was good.
Okay, then buckle up. Here it comes. They should really create a Phantasm app for your phone, And whenever you're in a dream, it glows pink. And whenever you're in another world, but it looks like this world, it glows amber. And anytime it's too fucked up to matter, it'll start honking like an alarm from the National Wireless Emergency Alert System or something.
I think that's great. I don't know. I think you should go ahead and build that, create that.
How many people going to download the Phantasm app?
I had my phone on last week when they did one of those alerts. Let me just give people some advice. Do not be in Best Buy when they do a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. You're still going to be feeling that 3 days later.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, next segment break at an hour and basically 47 seconds, but an hour into the movie.
Okay, we're in Bolton, Oregon, and this sequence we just watched, Reggie, this is an historic sequence. Because it's the first time all four of the main characters, Reggie, Jody, Mike, the tall man, are reunited after 15 years. But it's also crazy complicated. So complicated that, that scene you guys do occasionally where you go, I'm lost, man. I don't have a clue where we are. And then somebody or something or a silver sphere has to direct you to the tall man's lair. Okay, well, that's where I am right now. So let's do this. I'm going to go over the whole plot of Phantasm up to this point.
Cool.
And you stop me if at any time I make a factual error. Is that fair? Does that work? Okay.
You got it.
All right. Jody dies in a car accident before the first movie ever starts.
Right.
But we don't know that because the first movie takes place inside the mind of Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so inside the mind of Mike, Tommy, who is a bandmate in your folk rock trio, has sex in the cemetery with a lady in lavender who stabs him to death with a stiletto and transforms into the tall man. But for some reason, you guys think Tommy committed suicide.
Exactly.
Mike's big brother, Jody, doesn't let Mike go to the funeral of Tommy. But Mike sneaks in anyway on his motorbike, and he watches the graveside service, and after everybody else has gone home, he sees the tall man stealing Tommy's casket and putting it inside the hearse. After some fake fortune-telling and some gratuitous folk singing, thanks to you, Reg, we find out that Mike is terrified that Jody will leave him, and maybe that's why he's telling these stories about the tall man chasing him around and stealing bodies.
Yep.
Then Jody falls for the same sex in the cemetery with the hot hooker ruse, but he doesn't get killed because Mike is spying on him, and he chases a little dwarf through the cemetery at the moment of orgasm. Meanwhile, the tall man keeps trying to kidnap Mike while the kid is working on his big brother's hemikuda, and it causes Mike to break into the tall man's mausoleum where he hides in a casket, but he gets discovered by a caretaker who fights with him before they're both attacked by a flying silver sphere that drills into the caretaker's head and spews blood everywhere.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, all of this is somehow considered Christmas movies to Joe Bob, but we'll just go along with that.
Everywhere.
How am I doing so far?
You're doing great.
Okay, well then the tall man tries to grab Mike, but he escapes after being chased by midget dwarves. And midget dwarves. We don't say midgets on this show. Dwarves.
That would be twice as small.
No. And cutting off the tall man's fingers,
Right.
which bleed yellow goo. Mike keeps one of the fingers in a box, but it turns into a black creature with red teeth that jumps out of the box and gloms onto his head, and it takes 3 people to grind it up in the garbage disposal. Meanwhile, Jody breaks into the mortuary, and he kills a spooky attack monk, and then he gets chased by a driverless hearse, and then he's saved by Mike in the Cuda, who blows up the hearse, only to find out that Tommy is some sort of dwarf zombie in the back of the exploded hearse.
Terribly boring plot.
Then they put dwarf Tommy in your ice cream truck, and they send Mike to an antique store where he sees a picture of the tall man driving a hearse 100 years ago. And then Jody has a dream about being grabbed by the tall man. But what's really happening is your ice cream truck is being attacked and destroyed by frozen dwarf Tommy.
What the fuck were they smoking when they came up with these Phantasm movies, Chad? I just want to know. This is like Pee Wee Herman levels of fucked, like just Pee Wee Herman Playhouse fucking levels of movie going on here with Phantasm series.
Who also kidnaps 2 women when they drive by with Mike in the car. Jody drives the Cuda to the mausoleum to rescue the 2 women, while the tall man is kidnapping Mike and taking him to the same place in the back of the hearse, not expecting Mike to bust out the back window and leap out of the hearse as it goes off the road and explodes in a ball of flame. They love those shots where the vehicles explode in a ball of flame. Right?
Beautiful.
Then we get some flying silver sphere POV as Mike and Jody discover that the bodies of their parents are missing from the mortuary crypts that they paid good money for.
Yeah.
And Jody blows the silver ball out of the air right before you appear again. Alive. You're alive. That's the first time you die in the series. And you join them in the room full of black canisters that includes a door to another planet. Right. Where the bodies are sent to be slaves.
Exactly.
And then you do something weird with your tuning fork. I don't know exactly what it is. And then both you and Mike almost get pulled into the other planet. And then there's a humongous wind while the blonde bimbo, which we know is really the tall man, is attempting to kill Jody with a knife out in the yard. But it's not Jody who dies. It's you who die again. You have a great dying scene where the tall man pulls a dagger out of your stomach. And then Mike and Jody make a plan to lure the tall man to the old mine shaft. But first, Mike has to wade through quicksand and lead the tall man on a foot chase that results in the tall man falling into the mine shaft and plunging to his death.
That's actually another interesting thing about all these Phantasm movies. The tall man, he's considered the tall man, but it's actually a woman. It's a blonde bimbo. So the blonde bimbo is the tall man.
And that's when you tell Mike,
wrap your head around that one, chat,
was a bad dream, and that you're going to try to take Jody's place by going on a road trip. And in fact, the rest of your life is a road trip, is a Phantasm road trip. But when Mike starts packing his stuff for the road trip, the tall man comes out of his mirror and drags him into the other dimension. I'm not done. There's more. Okay.
But wait.
Okay.
More.
But then you hear the noise
But
upstairs
wait,
and you
there's
grab a
more.
shotgun, but a dwarf monk with a monster face and bare green feet and claw hands attacks you out of a cabinet, and you have to beat it to death with the stock of the shotgun, and then you get cornered by a whole room of dwarves, but you break out with a baseball bat, and you crawl up a laundry chute, and you rescue Mike from a body bag, and you blow up your own house to exterminate the dwarves. Mike ends up in a mental hospital where he has to lie his way out so he can meet up with a girl who's communicating with him through ESP, and then the tall man blows up your house, or blows up another house. I think he blows up your house.
Blows up my house.
A lot of houses get blown up in these movies. Right? A lot of things are getting fucking destroyed. From the ice cream truck to the hemikuda, and now they got houses. The budget was just fucked, ladies and gentlemen. It was fucked.
Okay, on Thanksgiving, with all your family inside, And so you become radicalized now. You dedicate your life to killing the tall man.
I'm pissed at this
Yeah,
point.
and so you and Mike load up with about 30,000 rounds of ammo.
And that's what it took. Again, this is like the third movie in the series. The tall man fucking blows up a house, and that's what drives the character to finally seek revenge. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is like Pee Wee Herman Playhouse levels of fucked when it comes to the script and the story for these Phantasm movies.
Right? You get a chainsaw, you get a flamethrower. You did all your flamethrower stunts yourself, didn't you?
I did.
You operated that flamethrower. I could tell.
Another thing that was cool about when we got all the guns and all the armor and stuff and the weapons and the ammo, and at the very end when we've got everything we need, I take out a big wad of money and put it in the...
That's right. You paid for all the stuff you stole.
Everything that we stole.
Yeah. You buy a bunch of rifles. And that's where you introduce the quadruple-barreled shotgun.
Yeah.
And you set off in the CUDA, and you're looking for towns that the tall man has destroyed.
Yep.
And then you find Liz, the ESP girl, and she's cowering in a corner with tape over her mouth in an abandoned mortuary. Only it's not really Liz. It's a monster in Liz form, and so you have to burn her the fuck up, right? You burn Liz up. But you're on your way to Perigord, Oregon, where priests are plunging stakes into the mouths of corpses so that the dead people won't become zombies. And that's where you meet up with the real Liz. But not before you pick up a hot babe hitchhiker named Alchemy. Reg, wasn't the name Alchemy kind of a giveaway? I know she was saying Kimmy. My name is Kimmy for short, but her name was Alchemy.
Alchemy.
And you let her ride with you because, as usual, Reg, you're a total horn dog. You see a girl, you pick her up. You got to do her. So Liz is wandering around this ghost town looking for her grandma and grandpa, but the tall man has their bodies, so she has to go to the mortuary, and she watches the tall man kill some priests with triple flying silver spheres. Now there are 3 balls instead of 1, and she has to bash her own dwarf grandma in the
3 balls instead of 1. That should have been like the fucking headline on the poster for this movie. There's not 1 ball anymore. They got 3.
face before hiding in the cemetery with you guys. And then Kimmy rides you like a cowboy and makes love to your bald head. And while that's going on,
yeah,
the tall man manages to grab Liz and throw her into the hearse, starting the high-speed chase that results in the Hemicuda exploding right after they cut you out of it. I can't stand to see him tear up that Hemicuda. Then you and Mike run to the crematorium to save Liz from being burned up in the oven.
Joe Bob really wanted that fucking Hemicuda, chat. If they had a Hemicuda today, Joe Bob's name would be on it.
And while you're at it, you put hydrochloric acid in the embalming fluid, so anybody that gets reanimated will have an exploding face. And
matter of fact, anybody, if you have a Hemicuda, if you're watching this and you're a Hemicuda owner, you better fucking donate that to Joe Bob. You better sell it to Joe Bob for nothing but pennies, because that man deserves the Hemicuda.
And Liz hits the mortician in the balls so that he burns up in the oven instead of her. And then you get in a chainsaw fight with a zombie in a gas mask. Good chainsaw fight.
Oh,
Rick.
thanks.
Yeah. While Liz and Mike are fighting off the silver spheres, and at the end of those 2 scenes, you blow away 4 dwarves with 1 shot. That was a great scene. That was a great moment.
4 dwarfs, 1 bullet. It all happened in Phantasm 3, ladies and gentlemen. First time ever, probably in a movie.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And then you guys find another white room with the canisters in it where there's a portal to the other planet, and slime creatures start coming out of the canisters, and somehow Liz ends up back on the embalming table while you and Mike are trying to avoid getting sucked through to the other planet. And then Mike throws a sphere into the tall man's forehead just as the tall man is piercing Lid's carotid artery, but a creature comes out of the tall man's head and attacks Mike as Liz plunges an embalming needle into the tall man's back. And there's yellow goo everywhere. That yellow goo must have been horrible to work with.
It was.
Yeah.
And it's very thick, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, it just kind of drips down.
Well, the whole skin of the tall man just melts off his frame.
Yeah.
And then you fire up that flamethrower and you start burning everything up as everybody runs outside and you jump into the hearse. that Kimmy has hotwired for you. And then Kimmy pulls her wig off, and she's a zombie alien and a bad hearse driver. And Mike realizes once again that the whole thing has been a dream inside his head. And then this movie starts. The one we're watching right now. It took all that to get up to this movie. And we got the tall man, the dwarves, the silver spheres, the golden sphere, the three thieves, the three zombie thieves, grave diggers, the huge Gothic mausoleum, colored hearses, the guys in gas masks, the silver sphere that's actually Jodie in sphere form, and that sphere is able to create sex dreams in your head. Only Jodie also appears in body form, and he tells you that he wants to take you to the tall man because Mike is in danger, and so you go to the dry lake bed. Mm-hmm. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And I think that was in Irwindale, right? That dry lake bed? Somewhere.
I think it was out that way.
Or something.
Yeah, out that way.
And you find Mike in a cell, and you rescue him, but you need to use your tuning fork to close the portal and cut off the tall man's hands.
Right.
But suddenly, there's a double-jawed bug monster that jumps on your face, and Rocky cuts it in half, and it climbs into your nose like a hanging booger, and you have to rip it out and squash it, and then you blow away one animated tall man hand with the quadruple-barreled shotgun, and then the other one crawls up your pants and over your nads, which Rocky is all too happy to slice up, and then the monster gets tossed into the fire pit and burns up.
Don't it sound like the perfect Christmas movie to you, chat? Don't Phantasm 3 sound like the fucking perfect Christmas movie to watch around the holiday season? Sit down with some friends and family. Everybody opens gifts and watch this kind of shit.
That was a pretty good summary, Joe Bob.
Is that about some of our
I think that summarizes basically all 5 films, actually.
Well, that brings us to where we are right now. So stick around, Reg. We're going to need you at various times during the night. Oh, and for those of you who are still following the plot, Colorado State, if you're in a Colorado State, 2 hits of critical mass, which is half Afghani and half skunk number 1. If you're in a Texas state, 1 shot of spiritus Polish vodka. We're going full bore. Spiritus Polish vodka. I think that's 180 proof. I'm not sure, but it's a lot. How close did that knife come to your jewels, by the way, Reg?
Too close for comfort, Joe Bob. It was rather frightening.
Unscathed, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Next segment break. An hour and 13 into the movie. We basically got about 15 minutes left in the episode, so definitely coming down to the end now.
So the wrap on Phantasm 3, it's the love-hate installment in the series. They went away from the surrealism and more toward pure action. It's kind of action, sci-fi, horror, comedy. And once again, the reason they made it is that Reggie found a...
Horror, action, sci-fi, comedy. Just try to fucking put that on a movie nowadays and try for it to not be fucked.
Location. They found that huge...
Horror, action, sci-fi, comedy.
The Angelus Abbey Mausoleum. And so they said, let's write a sequel for this location. But to juice up the story, they just keep adding villains. They got the tall man, the dwarves, the silver spheres, the golden sphere, the 3 punk thieves, the 3 zombie punk thieves, the grave diggers, whatever that creature was that crawled up Reggie's pants. And then they've got that really weird plot twist that some of the silver spheres can become nice spheres due to the process we just saw, whereby the tall man amputates the mind and encases it inside the sphere and turns the spheres into killers. But I guess Jody decided to amputate his own mind or something because he put his own brain matter inside the sphere. You know, another thing to ask Reggie when he comes back. All right, let's give some credit here. That was stuntman Bob Ivy, who used a pipe ramp to sail that hearse 160 feet through the air. Bob Ivy would later play the title role in Don Coscarelli's limited release cult film, Bubba Hotep. And we also haven't talked about Rocky. That's Gloria Lynn Henry, once again a musician in one of her very few acting roles. She's really known for just this one role. Detroit native, lead singer in a funk rock band, they call it, a funk rock band called Chatter. And she once traveled the world as a member of the cast of Up With People. All right. Oh, you don't know what Up With People is. All right, it's time for the logic-defying conclusion to Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead. Does anybody except me remember Up With People? That was a group of singers and dancers and musicians who would travel around to high schools. They would perform at the high school assembly. And their message was basically, be brain dead and happy, like us. And they would sing these songs that were like every song ever performed in a beauty pageant. You know, inspirational songs, happy songs, happy, happy, happy. We're so happy. Up with people. We like people. Don't you like people? We like people. Up with people. By the end of the assembly, you wanted to just rip their heads off one at a time and watch them bleed to death.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. This is the end of our Joe Bob movie watch along. This is after the credits for Phantasm 3.
So now there are thousands of those damn silver spheres, and there's a gold sphere that's the tall man himself, although he had to lose all his skin to become a sphere.
One sphere turns into 3 spheres, which turns into thousands of spheres, and now there's a gold sphere that rules them all, ladies and gentlemen, and that's not just the plot in this movie.
You know, they actually filmed a very interesting alternate ending that was never used. This is the movie where we find out the tall man can't survive the cold. So Reggie and Tim travel up to northern Alaska, and Reggie digs a hole in the ice, and Tim places the tall man's gold sphere inside the ice, and they put a metal plaque over the hole, and they seal it up, and the plaque says, "Here lies the tall man, R.I.P." And then Reggie's big closing line is, "Now all we got to worry about is global warming." I wish they'd left that in. Anywho, the crew absolutely hates those silver spheres for a very simple reason. The chrome surface on the sphere reflects everything you see, and so there's always a chance you'll see the camera or a crew member in the reflection. So you basically have to hide the camera and all the equipment and all the personnel behind curtains and walls whenever they shoot with those things.
That's actually a pretty good observation by Joe Bob. The fucking spheres were so chrome and so metallic that you could actually catch glimpses of like the actors and the crew and the camera. So they had to definitely work around that if they wanted to involve the spheres in these movies, which they did.
Especially in scenes like that last one where you got 30 of them hovering all around Reggie. Chris Choman was the cinematographer solving problems like that, and whenever the tall man appears, Chris uses a very saturated blue tint to the film. It's a color called Congo blue. And then as the film goes on, he starts using it as the tall man approaches the scene, but before you actually see the tall man, as a sort of foreshadowing device, you know, so you'll know when he's about to appear. Chris teaches cinematography at the University of Southern California. And by the way, let's give some credit for some amazing stunts, too. That was Cindy Ambule as Edna, the femme fatale of the 3 looters. She gets a tomahawk.
Gotta always give credit to your stunt people, ladies and gentlemen. The stunt actors do not get enough respect in this business. They deserve it just as much as the actors who play the roles.
To the head, she gets a point-blank blast with Reggie's quadruple-barrel shotgun. She gets run over by a 6,000-pound funeral coach. She falls several stories onto a marble floor. She has a gold chrome sphere punched through her forehead. That lady took her punishment and still looked mighty fine. She has gone on to an extensive television career, unlike most of the actors who turn up in Phantasm movies. She has a starring role in, she was in that series Jag. Whoa. Was this really a good idea, though, to watch 4 Phantasm movies in a row? Too late now, right? I mean, we got part 4 coming up in a minute, but first we're going to check in with the mail girl, Darcy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Darcy, the mail girl, here for Joe Bob on The Last Drive-In.
A bunch of letters from people who couldn't watch the marathon when it originally aired, but then caught up with it on demand.
And so you got one for me?
This one is from a fellow LA homie.
Yeah.
Amy Searley of Los Angeles.
Dear Joe Bob, hopefully you can take me at my word that I have no time in my schedule for sycophantism. Amy, I don't either. We have zero tolerance. What is sycophantism? All right. And that the ensuing superlatives are just my genuine heartfelt reaction. The way you were able to synergize the seemingly disparate populist Joe Bob persona with the profoundly scholarly aspect of your film criticism, she's referring to my book, Profoundly Disturbing, without missing a step was truly remarkable. I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to see Reanimator assessed in relationship to Aristotle's Poetics. Remember when I got off on that?
Oh, yeah.
Or shock theater discussed in terms of the Kuleshov effect. But more importantly, to me anyway, it affords dignity and validation, not only to the art itself, but to the fan base. We're so often dismissed and categorized as knuckle draggers. And speaking of Eisenstein, I loved your Zachary tribute. His is a figure that looms large in the Searles household, her household. And it was deeply touching to finally see him appropriately eulogized. In closing, I know this is a weird thing to say, but I'm so proud of you, Amy Searles. My favorite part of this letter is where she says she's proud of me, because see, that indicates that we're all in this together, that we're a family.
We're all in it together, chat.
And you know, of all the letters I got about the marathon, the ones that surprised me the most were the people who fell in love with the legend of Boggy Creek.
Because it's freaking awesome, dude.
Well, it's not like Shudder was getting thousands of requests to show Boggy Creek. You know, as monster movies go, it was kind of
awesome.
I guess so. All right. 2 more Phantasm movies, and then we'll all understand the meaning of time and space. You're not Irish, are you?
Yeah.
You are?
Yes.
Okay. Darcy.
But go for it, dude.
The lovely Darcy is Irish, as so is your boy.
All right,
Italian and Irish,
right.
ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe you've heard this one. There's this bar where there's only 2 guys in the place. And so one guy stumbles up to the other guy and he asks him if he can buy him a drink. He says, of course. So the first guy says, where are you from? Second guy says, I'm from Ireland. The first man says, you don't say, I'm from Ireland too. Let's have another round to Ireland. So they drink another round to Ireland. Then the first man says, where in Ireland are you from? The second man says, Dublin. And the first man says, I can't believe it. I'm from Dublin too. Let's have another round to Dublin. So they drink another round to Dublin. Curiosity strikes again. So the first man says, what school did you go to? Second man says, St. Mary's, class of 82. And the first man says, this is amazing. I'm St. Mary's, class of 82 myself. About that time, one of the regulars at the bar comes in. He sits down at the bar and he asks the bartender, what's been going on tonight? The bartender says, oh, nothing much. The O'Malley twins are drunk again.
Just the O'Malleys drinking a couple rounds at the bar. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, salute. That is going to do it for our Joe Bob watch along tonight. That was Phantasm 1 and Phantasm 3. Now, ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. I am about to get ready for our next stream. It's only going to be available here on YouTube, but I am about to get ready to listen to this new Eminem album, The Death of Slim Shady, Coup de Grace. I'll see you then, ladies and gentlemen. Have a safe night. Everybody take care, and thank you for watching.